the separate sources of truth. In the high, pristine mountains of Jōdo-san, Pure Land Peak, two great rivers originated, flowing down into the world in parallel, yet never meeting. These rivers were revered as the embodiment of the two essential components of enlightenment. The River Prajñā, wisdom. Originating from the highest, clearest glacier, this river was absolutely pure, transparent, and icy cold. It flowed straight and deep, representing Prajñā, the penetrating, non-dual insight into emptiness and ultimate truth. Its master was Kenshō, seeing the essence, who valued precision, logic, and the complete annihilation of illusion. The River Karuṇā, compassion. Originating from a warm, humid spring far below, this river was wide, warm, and nutrient-rich, constantly branching and curving to nurture every small village and field along its path. It represented Karuṇā, the boundless, active desire to relieve the suffering of all beings, conventional truth. Its master was Aiji, loving kindness, who valued engagement, warmth, and the immediate relief of pain. The disciples of each river despised the other's methods. Kenshō's followers scorned the Karuṇā disciples for being too emotional, attached to form, and muddying the waters of truth with conventional problems. Aiji's followers criticized the Prajñā disciples for being cold, detached, and isolating the truth in a remote, inaccessible purity. Master Kenshō, relying on pure Prajñā, was the perfect teacher of shunyata, emptiness. His students achieved rapid, profound insight into the unconditioned nature of reality. Yet, when they left the monastery, they often found themselves paralyzed, unable to interact with the suffering world because they saw all forms, including their own actions, as equally empty and therefore meaningless. Their wisdom lacked function. Master Aiji, relying on boundless Karuṇā, was the perfect teacher of skillful means, upaya, and generosity, dana. Her students became tireless, compassionate workers, alleviating immense conventional suffering. Yet, they often suffered from burnout, emotional exhaustion, and an underlying clinging to the results of their good deeds, lacking the equanimity, upeksa, that only comes from the insight of Prajñā. Their compassion lacked stability. The call for unity one day, a terrible drought struck the lands below the mountains. Both rivers, flowing separately, were insufficient to save the entire region. The Prajñā River was too narrow and cold to irrigate the vast, thirsty plains. The Karuṇā River, while wide, began to run dry from being too frequently drawn upon. The people sent a plea to the two masters. Your separate truths are failing us. We need the total, unified flow to survive. Both masters, witnessing the failure of their isolated perfections, realized their error. Kenshō realized that his pure wisdom was useless if it could not flow into the world to alleviate suffering. Aiji realized that her tireless compassion was unsustainable without the non-clinging, stable grounding of wisdom. They met at the Gasho no Iwa, the rock of joined hands, a massive boulder standing equidistant from the two rivers. Master Aiji, said Kenshō, his voice clear but emotionless, my prajñā is too cold. It sees the suffering as empty, but it has no heat to actively transform the suffering. How do I give my pure water the warmth and breadth of your flow? Master Kenshō, replied Aiji, her voice warm but tinged with exhaustion. My karuna is too weak. It pours itself out until it runs dry. How do I give my wide flow the non-clinging stability of your glacier source? Kenshō responded with a profound summary of the entire path. Karuna is the conventional truth in action. Prajñā is the ultimate truth that sustains the action. They are the two wings of the bird of enlightenment. To fly, we must merge the rivers. Their challenge was not merely to divert the flows, but to teach their respective disciples the unified practice of the confluence, a practice that required both the ice of wisdom and the fire of active compassion simultaneously. The practice of the unified flow. Kenshō and Aiji issued a joint decree. The disciples of both rivers must descend to the valley of synthesis and build a single, unbreakable channel to merge the flows. The Prajñā disciples, the wisdom seekers, were given the physical task of digging the channel, a labor of pure conventional effort, virya. They hated the muddy, imprecise work, but they were forced to apply their prajñā to the physical task. They used their clear insight to perfectly calculate the angles and depth needed for maximum flow. They learned that prajñā was not just insight into emptiness, but the wisdom of efficient, skillful function. The Karuṇā disciples, the compassion seekers, were given the spiritual task of maintaining the non-clinging intention, a labor of pure, ultimate patience, kshanti. They struggled to dig without immediately seeking praise or becoming frustrated when the soil resisted. They learned that Karuṇā was not just feeling warm, but the stability of compassion that perseveres without attachment to the result. The merging of the flows. After weeks of sustained non-dual effort, the massive channel was finally complete. The disciples of Prajñā had learned to soil their hands without losing their inner clarity, and the disciples of Karuṇā had learned to labor without clinging to the sight of immediate results. Master Kenshō and Master Aiji stood at the point where the two rivers were about to merge. First, the icy, pure water of the River Prajñā, wisdom, rushed into the channel. The Prajñā water was so cold and fast that it instantly purified the muddy banks of the new channel, clearing away the conventional dualism of us versus them, and pure versus. Now I see that Prajñā does not fear the world, it clarifies the world. Master Kenshō, said Aiji, her voice now grounded and stable. My exhaustion was rooted in delusion. I believed that Karuṇā meant taking on the suffering of the world. Now I see that Karuṇā is sustained by Prajñā. It means seeing the suffering as empty and relieving it, without clinging to the form of the suffering or the result of the relief. They summarize the final unified teaching for their disciples. Prajñā is the eye of the Bodhisattva. It sees the true, empty nature of reality. Karuṇā is the hand of the Bodhisattva. It acts tirelessly and compassionately in the world of form. A hand without an eye is blind action that burns out. An eye without a hand is cold insight that is useless. The path of the Bodhisattva is the inseparable unification of the two. The Mahāyāna river flowed until it met the great sea. It did not resist the blending. It flowed effortlessly into the ocean of liberation. The ocean, being vast, stable, and completely boundaryless, was the final symbol of nirvana, a state achieved not by finding a single, separate peak of purity, but by perfectly integrating the entirety of the dynamic, flowing life of wisdom and compassion. The final lesson, the two masters and their unified disciples built a great monastery at the confluence, calling it Fukugo-ji, the Temple of Synthesis. Their final teaching was simple and profound. They taught that when you engage in active compassion, Karuṇā, you must do so with the non-clinging insight of emptiness, Prajñā. And when you rest in deep wisdom, Prajñā, you must let that insight motivate boundless active engagement, Karuṇā. The two truths and the two wings were finally understood to be one process, the seamless, unending flow of the enlightened mind in the world. The perfection of the book. The master scribe, Koroku, whose name meant record, was the keeper of the entire lineage of wisdom. He was the last living link to the complete, unbroken oral tradition, and he had dedicated his life to a singular task: writing the Book of Absolute Truth, Shosho no Sho, a perfect, definitive text that contained every teaching, every nuance of Prajñā, Karuṇā, and the two truths. Koroku worked within the walls of a silent, isolated scriptorium, believing that the truth, being absolute, required absolute clarity in its written form. He feared that if the complete teaching was not recorded flawlessly, the Dharma itself would be lost to the chaotic flow of time, anicca. After 50 years, Koroku finished the final page. The Book of Absolute Truth was a masterpiece of calligraphy and logic, a fixed, unchanging blueprint for liberation. Koroku felt immense pride, mana, in his perfect achievement, believing he had finally mastered the art of trapping the unconditioned truth within conditioned words. His only student was a young man named Moji, whose name meant letter or character. Moji had spent years meticulously copying Koroku's early drafts, but he never seemed to absorb the ultimate meaning. He treated the words with reverence, but struggled to apply them to the messy reality of his life. Moji revered the finished book above all else. He believed that the truth resided within its leather-bound covers, a fixed, sacred object separate from the chaotic world. Koroku saw that his perfect book had created a final, subtle form of clinging, a spiritual attachment to the form of the teaching rather than the essence of the realization. Moji was liberated by the logic of the book, but paralyzed by its perfection. Koroku realized his final lesson. The ultimate teaching is the one that destroys the need for a teacher and a text. The truth must be found not in the fixed record of the past, but in the dynamic reality of the present. Koroku called Moji into the scriptorium. "Moji," Koroku said, pointing to the masterpiece. "This book is perfect. It contains the whole Dharma, but it has one fatal flaw. It is finished. By being complete, it teaches that the truth is a fixed destination, not a living flow." Moji's eyes widened with terror. "Master, do not speak such heresy. This is the most sacred object in the world." "The truth is not a fixed object," Koroku insisted. "It is the unconditioned wisdom that flows through all conditioned forms. You must stop seeking the truth in the book and find it in the world." Koroku gave Moji his final shocking command. "You will perform the practice of the unwritten page. You will take the Book of Absolute Truth and carry it down to the central marketplace of the city. Tomorrow, at noon, you will publicly destroy the book, forcing yourself to rely not on the fixed word, but on the living wisdom of the moment." The destruction of the fixed truth Moji was heartbroken and terrified. To destroy the perfect Book of Absolute Truth was the ultimate act of sacrilege, a negation of every moment of his master's life and every lesson he had ever learned. He carried the heavy book down to the bustling marketplace. He stood next to a vendor selling fruit, whose cart was perpetually chaotic, a perfect representation of samsara and its perpetual messiness. At the stroke of noon, Moji raised his hammer over the book. His hands trembled, paralyzed by the internal dualism, sacred text versus mundane world. He fought the powerful instinct to stop, to preserve the fixed teaching. "If I destroy the book, what remains?" Suddenly, the fruit vendor, rushing to stabilize his cart, accidentally bumped Moji. The book slipped from Moji's grip and fell into a puddle of spilled fruit juice and mud. The delicate pages instantly soaked up the grime. Moji stared at the ruined, muddy text. He had not destroyed the book with an intentional act of wisdom, prajñā. It had been ruined by the accidental, chaotic force of conventional reality, samvriti satya. In that moment of shock, he felt the fixed ground of his spiritual identity collapse. The truth had not been destroyed by the accident. The book's perfection was destroyed. He realized the truth was not in the clean, fixed pages, but in the unconditioned wisdom that allowed the mud and the words to coexist and interact. He looked up, expecting Karoku to be furious. The Dharma, in the grime moji, stood frozen in the marketplace, looking at the masterpiece, the book of absolute truth, now ruined by mud and juice. He expected Master Karoku to emerge from the crowd, his face etched with 50 years of spiritual disappointment. Instead, a young boy selling water ran past, slipped on the wet fruit peel, and fell, shattering his ceramic jug. The boy began to cry, not because he was hurt, but because the source of his livelihood was broken. Moji's old instinct, fueled by the fixed teaching, would have been to intellectually observe the event. The jug is impermanent, anicca. The boy's suffering comes from clinging, dukkha. The jug is empty of self, anatta. This was the cold, detached wisdom of the uncorrupted text. But the sight of the muddy, ruined book had cleared the final obstruction in his mind. He realized that the truth was not contained within the text. The truth was the immediate, non-dual reality of the moment. Moji acted spontaneously. He didn't analyze the boy's emptiness. He simply applied karuna, compassion, and upaya, skillful means. He bought a new ceramic jug from a nearby artisan and, without saying a word, filled it with fresh water and placed it gently back into the boy's hands. The boy instantly stopped crying. He looked at Moji, not with gratitude for a gift, but with the unconditioned, pure joy of suffering instantly relieved. In that moment, Moji achieved his final realization. The book contained the word for compassion, but the mud contained the practice of compassion. The ultimate truth, nirvana, was not found in the pristine absence of the problem, but in the spontaneous, skillful solution to the problem, samsara. The entire Dharma, ethics, meditation, wisdom, and compassion was realized in the single, unmediated act of replacing the jug. The unspoken transmission Master Karoku stepped out from the shadows of an archway. He was not angry, but radiant with absolute peace. He walked over to the muddy book and picked it up. Moji, Karoku said gently, holding the ruined text. For 50 years I dedicated myself to writing the perfect teaching. I failed. The only way to complete the book was to have it destroyed by the world and then rewritten by your heart. He opened the book to the final clean page Moji had copied the day before. The page was blank. Karoku dipped his finger, not in ink, but in the mud and fruit juice that had ruined the text. On the final clean page, he drew one single profound symbol, a circle, enso. This is the unspoken Dharma, Karoku whispered. The only text you need is the spontaneous, compassionate action that arises when you stop clinging to the fixed words and simply allow the truth to flow through your hands. The book of absolute truth had finally served its ultimate purpose, to teach the profound lesson that the Dharma is always present, complete and unconditioned, existing not in the separation of the sacred, but in the full, fearless embrace of the mundane. The perfection of the book. The master scribe Karoku, whose name meant record, was the keeper of the entire lineage of wisdom. He was the last living link to the complete, unbroken oral tradition, and he had dedicated his life to a singular task: writing the book of absolute truth, Shoshonosho, a perfect, definitive text that contained every teaching, every nuance of Prajñā, Karuṇā, and the two truths. Kiroku worked within the walls of a silent, isolated scriptorium, believing that the truth, being absolute, required absolute clarity in its written form. He feared that if the complete teaching was not recorded flawlessly, the Dharma itself would be lost to the chaotic flow of time. Anicca. After 50 years, Kiroku finished the final page. The Book of Absolute Truth was a masterpiece of calligraphy and logic, a fixed, unchanging blueprint for liberation. Kiroku felt immense pride, mana, in his perfect achievement, believing he had finally mastered the art of trapping the unconditioned truth within conditioned words. His only student was a young man named Moji, whose name meant letter or character. Moji had spent years meticulously copying Kiroku's early drafts, but he never seemed to absorb the ultimate meaning. He treated the words with reverence, but struggled to apply them to the messy reality of his life. Moji revered the finished book above all else. He believed that the truth resided within its leather-bound covers, a fixed, sacred object separate from the chaotic world. Kiroku saw that his perfect book had created a final, subtle form of clinging, a spiritual attachment to the form of the teaching rather than the essence of the realization. Moji was liberated by the logic of the book, but paralyzed by its perfection. Kiroku realized his final lesson. The ultimate teaching is the one that destroys the need for a teacher and a text. The truth must be found not in the fixed record of the past, but in the dynamic reality of the present. Kiroku called Moji into the scriptorium. "Moji," Kiroku said, pointing to the masterpiece, "this book is perfect. It contains the whole Dharma, but it has one fatal flaw. It is finished. By being complete, it teaches that the truth is a fixed destination, not a living flow." Moji's eyes widened with terror. "Master, do not speak such heresy. This is the most sacred object in the world." "The truth is not a fixed object," Kiroku insisted. "It is the unconditioned wisdom that flows through all conditioned forms. You must stop seeking the truth in the book and find it in the world." Kiroku gave Moji his final shocking command. "You will perform the practice of the unwritten page. You will take the book of absolute truth and carry it down to the central marketplace of the city. Tomorrow at noon, you will publicly destroy the book, forcing yourself to rely not on the fixed word, but on the living wisdom of the moment." The destruction of the fixed truth Moji was heartbroken and terrified. To destroy the perfect book of absolute truth was the ultimate act of sacrilege, a negation of every moment of his master's life and every lesson he had ever learned. He carried the heavy book down to the bustling marketplace. He stood next to a vendor selling fruit, whose cart was perpetually chaotic, a perfect representation of samsara and its perpetual messiness. At the stroke of noon, Moji raised his hammer over the book. His hands trembled, paralyzed by the internal dualism. Sacred text versus mundane world. He fought the powerful instinct to stop, to preserve the fixed teaching. If I destroy the book, what remains? Suddenly the fruit vendor, rushing to stabilize his cart, accidentally bumped Moji. The book slipped from Moji's grip and fell into a puddle of spilled fruit juice and mud. The delicate pages instantly soaked up the grime. Moji stared at the ruined, muddy text. He had not destroyed the book with an intentional act of wisdom, prajñā. It had been ruined by the accidental, chaotic force of conventional reality, samvrti satya. In that moment of shock, he felt the fixed ground of his spiritual identity collapse. The truth had not been destroyed by the accident. The book's perfection was destroyed. He realized the truth was not in the clean, fixed pages, but in the unconditioned wisdom that allowed the mud and the words to coexist and interact. He looked up, expecting Karoku to be furious. The Dharma in the grime moji stood frozen in the marketplace, looking at the masterpiece, the book of absolute truth, now ruined by mud and juice. He expected Master Karoku to emerge from the crowd, his face etched with 50 years of spiritual disappointment. Instead, a young boy selling water ran past, slipped on the wet fruit peel, and fell, shattering his ceramic jug. The boy began to cry, not because he was hurt, but because the source of his livelihood was broken. Moji's old instinct, fueled by the fixed teaching, would have been to intellectually observe the event. The jug is impermanent, anicca. The boy's suffering comes from clinging, dukkha. The jug is empty of self, anatta. This was the cold, detached wisdom of the uncorrupted text. But the sight of the muddy, ruined book had cleared the final obstruction in his mind. He realized that the truth was not contained within the text. The truth was the immediate, non-dual reality of the moment. Moji acted spontaneously. He didn't analyze the boy's emptiness. He simply applied karuna, compassion, and upaya, skillful means. He bought a new ceramic jug from a nearby artisan, and without saying a word, filled it with fresh water and placed it gently back into the boy's hands. The boy instantly stopped crying. He looked at Moji, not with gratitude for a gift, but with the unconditioned, pure joy of suffering instantly relieved. In that moment, Moji achieved his final realization. The book contained the word for compassion, but the mud contained the practice of compassion. The ultimate truth, nirvana, was not found in the pristine absence of the problem, but in the spontaneous, skillful solution to the problem, samsara. The entire Dharma, ethics, meditation, wisdom, and compassion was realized in the single, unmediated act of replacing the jug. The unspoken transmission Master Karoku stepped out from the shadows of an archway. He was not angry, but radiant with absolute peace. He walked over to the muddy book and picked it up. Moji, Karoku said gently, holding the ruined text. For 50 years I dedicated myself to writing the perfect teaching. I failed. The only way to complete the book was to have it destroyed by the world and then rewritten by your heart. He opened the book to the final clean page Moji had copied the day before. The page was blank. Karoku dipped his finger, not in ink, but in the mud and fruit juice that had ruined the text. On the final, clean page, he drew one single profound symbol, a circle, Enso. This is the unspoken Dharma, Karoku whispered. The book of absolute truth is not this text, but the unwritten, ever-changing potential of your mind. He explained, the words and the logic, all of the conventional truth, were necessary to train your hand and your eye. But the moment the book fell, you stopped relying on my fixed teaching and relied on the intrinsic Buddha nature that was already present within you. He handed the ruined book back to Moji. The transmission is complete. The Dharma is not something to be received. It is something to be realized when the fixed teaching is removed. Go and teach, Moji, but do not teach from the old text. Teach from the muddy, dynamic experience of the world. The master of the living Dharma. Moji became the next master, and he never wrote another word. He did not seek to clean the old, muddy book of absolute truth. He kept it exactly as it was, displaying it publicly as a testament to the fact that perfect truth can coexist with conventional grime. He taught not in a silent scriptorium, but in the marketplace, surrounded by the chaos of samsara. When his students asked him for the single most important teaching of the entire path, from the Four Noble Truths to the non-duality of the Two Truths, he would simply point to the messy reality around them and say, "The complete and perfect Dharma is written on the living page of this moment." The only text you need is the spontaneous, compassionate action that arises when you stop clinging to the fixed words and simply allow the truth to flow through your hands. The Book of Absolute Truth had finally served its ultimate purpose, to teach the profound lesson that the Dharma is always present, complete, and unconditioned, existing not in the separation of the sacred, but in the full, fearless embrace of the mundane. One misty morning, Viveka came to Kshama, his backpack heavy with supplies, his brow furrowed with the immense pressure of his goal. "Master Kshama," Viveka said, pointing to the tall, distant peak, visible only as a faint, ethereal outline in the morning haze. "I am ready to begin my trek to Samadhi. I have planned every step, but I am filled with terror. What if I fail? What if I cannot find the path? What if I waste my time and never reach the summit?" Kshama, who was simply watching the shifting patterns of the morning mist, smiled a long, peaceful smile. "Ah, Viveka, your backpack is heavy with supplies, but your mind is heavy with the future. The greatest weight you carry is the destination itself." "But the destination is the point, Master," Viveka protested. "The summit is the achievement. If I do not focus fiercely on the goal, how will I avoid drifting and becoming lost?" Kshama stood up, effortlessly light, and gestured toward a tiny, winding deer path that disappeared into the nearest thicket. "Viveka, let us walk together for just 1 hour, and for this 1 hour, I ask you to make a sacred vow. We will walk without a destination. We walk purely for the act of walking." Viveka found this instruction intensely uncomfortable. He started walking, but his eyes constantly darted ahead, trying to spot a landmark, a signpost, anything to measure his progress. "Where are we going, Master? Is this path leading to the ridge? Is it the quick way to the river?" "My dear Viveka," Kshama replied, gently touching Viveka's arm, "the path is leading only to the next step, and the next step is leading only to the present moment. The moment is where the path is." Kshama then sat down by a mossy stone, enchanted by a single, perfectly formed dewdrop clinging to a fern. Viveka fidgeted nervously. "Master, we cannot stop. We must keep moving to gain distance. This dewdrop is a distraction. It is irrelevant to the summit." Kshama laughed, a soft, dry sound like rustling autumn leaves. "Irrelevant? My boy, the dewdrop is the entire journey in microcosm. It is perfect, complete, and utterly transient. And the beauty you see right now is the only beauty you are guaranteed to possess. Feel the tension draining from your own urgency now. The summit of sleep can't be forced. Relax your entire body and rest in the perfection of this present dewdrop." Kshama explained the wisdom of non-purpose. When you are obsessed with the summit, your entire experience is tainted by lack. The beautiful forest is not beautiful enough because it is not the summit. The gentle breeze is not gentle enough because it is not the moment of arrival. Your mind in this state becomes a harsh judge. It says, "This is not what I want. This is only a means to an end." And so, your entire journey, your entire life, becomes a hurried, anxious effort to escape the present moment. Viveka grudgingly agreed to sit, but his gaze remained fixed on the invisible, distant peak of Samadhi. "But what about effort, Master? If I do not strive with purpose, will I not simply drift and waste my time? Kshama smiled. There is a profound difference, Viveka, between effort with attachment and effort with presence. The energy you put into planning and worrying is wasted effort. It is the sound of the empty drum you once played. The energy you put into simply noticing the feel of the earth under your feet, the scent of the pine, the texture of the moss. That is effort with presence. It is the effort of paying attention, and it is entirely sufficient. Feel the gentle, profound effort of simply lying still now. You are doing nothing, yet you are deeply present. This is the effort of non-striving. Kshama then pulled a smooth, blank scroll from their sleeve. I call this the map of now. Viveka stared at the blank paper. There is nothing here, Master. It is useless for direction. Precisely, Kshama agreed. A map that shows the future creates anxiety, because the future is a phantom. A map that shows the present moment is blank, because the present moment is not a thing to be measured or planned. It is a reality to be experienced. Kshama then handed Viveka a fine charcoal stick. As we walk, Viveka, draw the path as it unfolds behind you. Let the map chart the journey that has already happened. Do not try to predict what comes next. Just record what has been. This exercise profoundly changed Viveka. By focusing only on the trail he had just walked, the past, he naturally released his frantic grip on the future. He discovered the subtle curve of the deer path, the exact shade of the stones, and the perfect placement of a fallen leaf. He was entirely present, and for the first time, his walking was joyful. The most important realization about the summit of Samadhi, Kshama revealed, is that it is always here. Samadhi is not a physical peak to be climbed. It is the state of mind that exists when the striving for the destination ceases. When your mind is totally immersed in the just so-ness, tathata, of the deer path, completely free of the anxiety of arrival, that very moment is Samadhi. You are already there. The peak is in the smallest step. You are on the map of now. Your path has led you here, to this moment of rest. There is nothing left to plan, nothing left to achieve. Kshama and Viveka spent the entire day wandering. They did not travel far, but they experienced vastness. They ate a simple meal and spoke only when necessary. By evening, Viveka's heavy backpack of provisions seemed to weigh nothing. His mind, having released the burden of the map, felt lighter than air. As the sun set, they found themselves back where they started, near the mossy stone. Viveka unrolled his map of now. It was a beautiful, intricate drawing, a testament to attention, filled with curves, tiny stones, and perfect ferns. It contained the entire richness of the day. Master, Viveka said, his voice quiet with wonder, I walked farther than I ever did before, and yet I have not moved at all, and my mind is utterly at peace. Exactly, Viveka, Kshama replied. Tonight you will rest perfectly, because you are no longer trying to climb the peak of sleep. You are no longer measuring your worth by the miles traveled or by the perfect, seamless line. The deep, restorative rest you need is not a reward waiting at the end of a difficult journey. It is the natural state that is revealed when the journeying mind is put down. Put down your map now. Close your eyes and allow your mind to wander aimlessly and joyfully within the safe confines of your awareness. You are not going anywhere. You are already here. You have already arrived. Rest in the complete, profound richness of the map of now. The journey to sleep is over, and the rest is all that remains. Sleep deeply, without purpose, and without end. the architect of the silent pause. Allow your body to sink fully into the cushion of support beneath you. Feel the deep, protective silence of the night gathering around you. Tonight, we honor the moment of profound freedom that exists not in action, but in stillness. We listen to the tale of the architect of the silent pause. Take a slow, deliberate inhale, and as you exhale, let your entire body become receptive and soft. The time for action is over. The time for rest is now. In a vast, bustling desert metropolis, a city constantly being rebuilt and reimagined, lived an architect named Virya. Virya was famous for designing immense, complex structures that defied gravity, spires that kissed the clouds, and bridges that spanned unimaginable distances. Despite his mastery over form and material, Virya's inner life was a constant rush. His mind was a frantic drafting table, perpetually cluttered with urgent blueprints, demanding schedules, and the noise of countless mental debates. He reacted instantly to every message, every criticism, every unforeseen problem, allowing no space between a thought and his response. He was constantly building, constantly reacting, but never truly at peace. Virya's most ambitious project was the Tower of the 10,000 Windows, a massive undertaking that seemed to throw up a new, unexpected crisis every hour. One afternoon, a frantic messenger arrived, breathless with terrible news. Master Virya, the Foundation crew has made a critical error. They poured the wrong concrete mix. The entire eastern base is compromised. You must immediately rush to the site and devise a new plan. Virya felt the usual explosive surge of panic and rage. His jaw clenched, his pulse pounded, and the immediate, powerful urge was to leap up, shout orders, and fire the foreman. This automatic reaction was his life's pattern. But as he moved to grab his coat, he caught sight of his master, an old, quiet, nameless woman who lived in the corner of his busy office. She was a simple ceramic artist, known for creating vessels of profound, quiet stability. The master ceramicist, Shanti, sat motionless at her wheel, perfectly centered, shaping a lump of clay. She'd witnessed the messenger's frantic entry and Virya's instantaneous tension, but she did not stop her work. Seeing his master's profound stillness, Virya paused, his hand hovering over his coat. The pause lasted perhaps only 2 seconds, but in that gap, a tiny sliver of awareness slipped through. Shanti finally spoke, her voice calm and grounded, blending with the soft, hypnotic whir of the wheel. Virya, she asked, without looking up, do you want to build a response based on fire or based on clay? I don't understand, Master. The foundation is compromised. I must act now. The crisis demands an immediate reaction. Shanti slowed her wheel until the clay spun only at the slowest, most gentle pace. She looked at him, her eyes calm as deep wells. Virya slowly let go of his coat. He sat down near his master, the adrenaline beginning to subside. The immediate urge to yell had passed. How long must the pause be, Master? He asked, his voice still ragged. A minute, an hour. The pause is not measured in time, Virya, Shanti explained, her hands still gently shaping the clay. It is measured in clarity. The pause must be long enough for the fire of emotion to cool, allowing your intelligence to become the architect of your action. She illustrated the 3 elements of the silent pause. Stop the momentum, cessation. Physically stop the immediate action. Do not speak. Do not move. Do not send the email. Just cease the momentum of the automatic reaction. Center the wheel, presence. Bring your mind immediately to your center, like centering the clay on the wheel. Use your anchor, the breath. Feel the deep connection between your body and the chair beneath you. Choose the material, clarity. Only when the wheel is centered do you choose the material for your response. Will you use hard, brittle stone, anger and blame? Or cool, flexible clay, wisdom and a solution? Virya sat for 10 minutes, simply practicing the pause. He centered himself on his breath, allowing the message about the faulty concrete to simply hang in the air, a fact, not a personal assault. He realized that by rushing, he would only have intensified the crisis. By pausing, he allowed his vast architectural knowledge to organize itself, to calmly assess the structural realities, and to find a true solution, untainted by rage. He finally stood up, his face calm, his body relaxed. He walked to his drafting table, picked up a fresh sheet, and began to draw a new set of plans. A graceful, innovative solution that incorporated the existing flawed foundation as a unique, weight-bearing element. He had transformed the mistake into a feature. Before leaving, he looked at Shanti. "Thank you, Master. The pause gave me back my freedom." "The freedom was always yours, Virya," Shanti replied, her wheel gently spinning. "The space was always there. Your life is not an endless series of reactions, but an endless series of choices made in the moment of that deep, silent pause. Now, you are the architect of your own rest. The worries, the tasks, the noises of the night, they are all messages demanding your attention. But you are not forced to react. You choose the pause. Feel the comfort of your bed. Let the breath be the slow, steady turning of the wheel. If a thought or worry comes, do not engage it. Simply place it gently on the spinning wheel of your awareness and say, pause. This space, this silent pause, is the core of your peace. It is the time when the day's fire has cooled and your own deepest wisdom takes over, guiding you effortlessly into rest. Rest now in the center of your wheel. You are free. You are still. You are the architect of the silent pause. The lamp maker and the unlit wick. Allow your mind to become completely still. A deep, silent space ready to receive this story. Let the events of your day fade like distant shadows, recognizing that the light you seek for rest is already within you. Tonight, we listen to the calming story of the lamp maker and the unlit wick. Breathe in the calm darkness and breathe out any residual need for external stimulation or worry. You are safe and you are inherently luminous. In a remote mountain valley, renowned not for its grand structures, but for its pervasive, gentle atmosphere of peace, lived a master craftsman known as Dipapa, the light. Dipapa was a master lamp maker. His lamps were sought after across all the kingdoms, not just for their elegant copper and brass designs, but because when lit, their flame burned with extraordinary clarity and steadiness. Dipapa lived with his apprentice, a young woman named Prabha, whose great strength was her energy and devotion, but whose weakness was her dependence on external validation. Prabha believed that light only existed when the wick was actively burning, and she worried constantly about maintaining the flame. One severe winter, a prolonged, intense blizzard descended upon the valley. The snow fell so thick and heavy that it was impossible to travel or trade. The entire community was cloistered in their homes, and for weeks, the valley was plunged into profound, uninterrupted darkness. Prabha began to despair. She sat huddled near the coal stove, staring at the rows of Dipa's finished lamps, all beautiful but all dark. "Master Dipa," Prabha lamented, her voice thick with anxiety, "we are useless. Our purpose is to bring light to the world. yet our lamps are dark. We have no oil, the air is too thin and cold for a strong flame, and no one can see our work anyway. Our entire value has vanished with the sun. She worried that her skill, her training, and Dippa's genius were all meaningless without the visible, flickering proof of the flame. Dippa, who was calmly polishing the surface of an unlit brass lamp, looked up and smiled, a patient, knowing expression. "Prabha," he said, his voice quiet, "you mistake the flame for the light. The flame is merely the visible, temporary action. The light is the inherent, eternal potential. It is always present, regardless of the wick's condition." "But how, Master? How can a lamp be useful if it is dark? Its purpose is unfulfilled." Dharpa held up the polished, unlit brass lamp. "Look closely at this surface, Prabha. When the flame is lit, it is beautiful, yes, but it is only one point of light, a single, striving effort. But when the flame is unlit and the surface is perfectly polished, look at what happens." Dippa slowly raised the unlit lamp to catch the faint, ambient silver light filtering in through the heavy snowfall outside. The surface of the brass, having been meticulously shaped and polished, caught the slightest trace of the faint light and reflected it outwards, not as a flame, but as a soft, pervasive, stable glow. "Do you see, Prabha? This glow is not created by the lamp, it is revealed by the lamp. The light comes from the surrounding world, and the lamp's only job is to be perfectly still, perfectly receptive, and flawlessly polished. Allow your mind to become that perfectly polished surface now. Release the need to burn with activity. Become still and receptive." Dippa continued, his words slow and rhythmic, like the steady strokes of a polishing cloth. "The light you seek, the peace you crave, does not depend on the fire of your activity, your striving, your planning, your achievements. That is the unsustainable flame, dependent on oil and air. The true light, the unwavering source of inner security, comes from the stillness and receptivity of the vessel itself. Your heart is the vessel. When you are quiet, when you cease the striving, the burning of the wick, you allow the eternal light of the universe to simply reflect off your being." Prabha was captivated, seeing the soft, ambient glow radiating from the metal. It was a quieter, more dependable light than any flame. "But what does the polishing represent, Master?" Prabha asked, referring to the hours Dippa spent polishing surfaces that were immediately covered in dust. "The polishing, my dear," Dippa explained, "is the practice of removing resistance. The dust is the worry, the resentment, the anxious thoughts of the day. They cloud the surface and prevent the reflection of the eternal light. You think you must polish to create the shine, but you only polish to remove the obstacle to the shine. The brass is naturally bright. Your inner peace is naturally bright. Let go of the dust of today. With every exhale, imagine the worries and the residue of conflict lifting away, leaving your inner surface clean and ready to reflect stillness." Dharpa then spoke of the unlit wick itself. The unlit wick is the most important element for rest. When the wick is unlit, it is surrendered. It is not struggling to catch fire. It is not consuming itself with ambition. It is simply resting, full of potential, waiting in quiet acceptance. In your sleep, your conscious mind must become that unlit wick. You must surrender the flame of your activity. You must trust that the deep, nourishing light of your being does not vanish just because the visible, mental activity has ceased. He summarized the lesson for her. "Do not strive to burn. Stop the effort. You are not required to think, plan, or solve problems in the darkness. Stop the consumption of your own energy. Maintain the Polish practice receptivity. Remain open and receptive to the subtle peace around you. Let the dust of worry fall away. Trust the reflected light, internal security. Trust that your core value, your true peace, is inherent. It does not disappear just because you are resting. You are still whole, still strong, even in the darkness. Tonight, Prabha, do not pray for a visible flame. Pray only for stillness, the perfect polish and the unlit wick. In that stillness, the true, quiet light of your being will reflect the eternal peace, and it will guide you into the deepest rest. As the blizzard howled softly outside, Dappa sat in the calm, ambient glow of his unlit lamps. Prabha lay down, her mind no longer frantic with the need for action. She closed her eyes, and for the first time, felt the profound security of her own inner stillness. She realized she did not need the fire of thought to prove her existence. She simply needed to rest and reflect the infinite quiet light of the present moment. Rest now, completely surrendered. You are the lamp maker. You are the polished vessel. You are the unlit wick. Find your peace not in the light you create, but in the stillness you reflect. Settle completely now. Let your awareness become expansive, vast, and effortlessly open. Release any feeling of being small, confined, or busy. Tonight, we move into the wisdom of limitlessness, the profound, unchanging nature of the open sky. We listen to the calming story of the sentinel of the unmoving sky. Breathe in deeply, drawing in a sense of spaciousness, and breathe out any sense of containment or restriction. You are the space itself, high on the arid, windswept plains of Tibet, where the horizon stretches into infinity and the sky feels closer than the earth, stood a solitary, ancient stone tower. This tower was not a fortress, but an observatory for contemplation, and it was maintained by a lone custodian known as Akasha, the space. Akasha was the final master of the art of sentinel contemplation, a practice devoted to observing the vast, ever-changing sky while recognizing the fundamental, unmoving nature of the space itself. Akasha had a disciple named Lama, whose mind was constantly burdened by the events of the village below. Lama was kind and diligent, but he took everything personally. When clouds gathered, he felt responsible for the impending storm. When the sun shone, he worried about the inevitable drought. His mind was perpetually identified with the transient phenomena. One spring evening, Lama climbed the tower steps, distressed by a series of unsettling news reports he had heard from a passing caravan. Rumors of market collapse, political strife, and general hardship. Lama found Akasha sitting on the roof platform, utterly still, watching the sky. A massive, complex storm was brewing on the horizon, a mix of dark, heavy rain clouds and dramatic, flickering lightning. "Master Akasha," Lama cried, his voice tight with anxiety. "Did you hear the news? Everything is collapsing. I feel such an immense weight of worry for the world. My mind is filled with these dark, chaotic clouds of anxiety, and I cannot find the peace to rest. How can I ignore the storm when it is so vast and so real?" Akasha turned his head slowly toward Lama, his expression serene. He pointed to the immense, darkening sky. "Lama, observe the storm. Is the storm a problem for the sky?" Lama frowned. "Of course not, Master. The storm is just a temporary event happening within the sky. The sky simply contains it." "Precisely," Akasha said softly. "The sky does not contract in fear when the thunder rolls. It does not cling to the light when the sun shines. It does not judge the clouds for being dark, nor the stars for being distant. The sky remains utterly unmoved in its essential nature, The storm and the sun are just two different guests passing through the boundless spaciousness that holds them both. The sky is the great sentinel of this non-reactivity. Feel the immense open space above you now. Recognize that your mind, in its deepest, most fundamental nature, is exactly that space. Vast, silent and unbound. Lama sat down, trying to follow the analogy, but his internal noise, the thunder of his anxiety, was too loud. But my mind is not the sky, master. My mind is the storm. When worry arises, my mind becomes the worry. When fear flashes, my mind is the lightning. How do I separate the clouds from the space that holds them? Akasha closed his eyes, then gently tapped the center of Lama's chest. The key, Lama, is to stop shrinking the sky. Your thoughts and feelings, your anxieties and fears, are clouds of energy. When you react to them, when you fight them, or when you believe they are your very self, you are shrinking the vast sky of your awareness down to the size of the tiny temporary cloud. When you say, I am worried, you identify the sky with the cloud. The sky is infinite. The cloud is transient. Take a slow, grounding breath. Imagine that every thought that enters your mind, every worry about tomorrow, every replay of today, is simply a small cloud drifting across a limitless blue expanse. Do not try to catch the cloud. Simply watch it drift. Akasha explained the practice of holding space for inner rest. Tonight, you must become the sentinel of your own sky. When a dark cloud of worry arises, your only job is to note it and then immediately return your attention to the vastness of the space that holds it. When the lightning of a sharp memory flashes, do not follow the light. Simply observe the flash and then return to the deep silent expanse of your inner sky. The sky does not need to solve the weather to be peaceful. It simply needs to be. The master then pointed to the difference between a window and the room itself. Your senses are the windows of the room. The clouds of the world pass by the window, casting shadows inside. If you identify with the shadow on the floor, you panic, thinking your room is dark. But the room, your core awareness, remains exactly the same size, entirely untouched by the shadows on the floor. Your true peace is the unchanging volume of the room, not the fleeting image on the window pane. Lama looked up at the fierce, beautiful storm, now dominating the twilight sky. He started to see the chaos not as a personal threat, but as an impersonal spectacle. The storm was doing what storms do. The sky was doing what the sky does. There was a profound, restful logic in the inevitability of the process. But what if the clouds never pass, Master? What if my anxiety remains all night? Akasha wrapped his arm around Lama's shoulders. Ah, Lama, this is the doubt of the beginner. It is the belief that things should be perfect for you to rest. The cloud must pass, because it is made of moisture and energy. It is impermanent. If it does not move forward, it will dissolve into the very space that contains it. You do not need to push the clouds. You only need to stop giving them energy. By sitting still, by not reacting, by simply being the sentinel, you are withdrawing the energy the cloud needs to sustain itself. You allow the anxiety to dissipate back into the vast, silent space of your awareness. In this final moment before sleep, grant yourself the absolute freedom of the sky. Let every thought, sensation, and emotion that arises be a guest in your boundless space. Welcome them with a silent nod, without judgment, and then return your attention to the vast, silent capacity of your mind to hold it all. Akasha stood and raised his hands to the sky, embracing the wind and the first drops of rain. Go now, Lama. Tonight, let your body rest in the softness of the earth, and let your mind rest in the vast, unchanging nature of the sky. Do not strive for silence. Do not fear the storm. Simply be the sentinel, unmoving, vast, and perfectly whole. Rest in the certainty that you are the space, and the storms of the mind are merely passing through. You are boundless. You are peace. The weaver of the underworld. Rivers settle into the deep silence you have already created. Let your awareness sink lower than the surface of your thoughts, lower than the feeling of your body, down into the deep, dark, nourishing quiet of the earth beneath you. Tonight, we honor the truth that the greatest work is often the work we do not see, the labor of the roots in the darkness. We listen to the calming story of the weaver of the underworld river. Inhale the stillness, and as you exhale, release the final tiny burden of needing to know or needing to control. In a vast, sun-drenched kingdom, known for its impossibly green and fertile fields, there was a secret known only to the wisest farmers. The fields were not watered by the bright, visible river that flowed on the surface, but by a mighty subterranean river that flowed deep beneath the earth, called Sarasvati. This underground river was guided and tended by a solitary, invisible guardian named Pusta, the nourisher. Pusta never saw the sun, never heard the birds, and never received praise for the rich harvests above. Her entire existence was devoted to the unseen, ceaseless labor of ensuring every root received the exact nourishment it required. Pusta had one major worry: a proud young scholar named Samkalpa, meaning intention or will, who served as the overseer of the visible river above ground. Samkalpa was a brilliant man who obsessed over measurable effort. He would spend his days frantically digging new visible canals, building massive surface water wheels, and measuring the flow of the upper river with meticulous precision. He believed that the only work that mattered was the work he could see, measure, and control. One summer, a terrible drought struck the region. The upper river, Samkalpa's pride and joy, slowed to a trickle, and the visible canals dried up completely. Samkalpa fell into a deep despair. He came to Pusta's hidden cavern, a vast echoing space where the mighty Sarasvati flowed, its current deep and slow, lit only by the faint diffused light of subterranean mosses. "Pusta," Samkalpa cried, his voice echoing his profound exhaustion. "I have failed. I tried everything. I dug 100 new channels. I worked all night, but the surface river is dead. The harvest is doomed. My immense effort was for nothing. There is no life left to give." Pust, who was quietly sitting beside the vast, powerful flow of the subterranean river, looked at him with gentle pity. "Samkalpa, you have failed only because you believe that the surface tension determines the deep flow. You confused the effort you could see with the work that truly mattered. You are tormented because you think the life of the field depends on your conscious, frantic will. You believe that if you cannot see the work, it is not happening. But I tell you, Samkalpa, the real nourishment has been flowing all along, entirely without your visible effort." Pusta pointed to the subterranean river. "This is the underworld river of your being. It is the deep, silent, regenerative power of your body and mind. It is the wisdom that heals your cells, organizes your memories, and maintains your spirit. Feel the immense, silent power beneath your own surface. Your heart is beating, your lungs are moving, your blood is flowing. All of this deep, essential work is happening without your conscious command. Surrender to it." Pusta explained the truth of the unseen labor. The farmer, when the visible river fails, does not panic. The farmer trusts the root. He knows that the deeper the root goes, the more reliably it will find this river, the Sarasvati. Your greatest work is to simply cultivate the willingness to let your awareness sink to this depth. Your constant, visible effort, your frantic planning, your measuring of time, your worry about being good enough, is like you trying to push the surface river with your bare hands. It only creates a useless splash, and it exhausts you completely. Sleep is the sacred time when the overseer, your conscious will, is required to let go of the surface control, allowing the true weaver, your unconscious wisdom, to take over. Samkalpa looked at the slow, powerful, dark river of the cavern. It was so vast, so reliable, yet entirely hidden. But how do I let go of the control, Pusta? I tell you, Samkalpa, the truth is the opposite. The work only begins when your eyes close. Pustan rose and walked toward the deepest point of the cavern, where the sound of the water was a deep, resonating hum. When you allow the conscious control to rest, your mind immediately begins the deep, crucial labor of consolidation, repair, and organization. This is the weaving of the underworld river, the silent mending of your spirit, the cleansing of your thoughts, the strengthening of your roots. You do not need to command this process. You only need to cease the resistance to it. Samkalpa, feeling the immense, unwavering power of the hidden river, finally understood the futility of his visible, anxious effort. He realized that the greatest proof of life was not the splash on the surface, but the profound, unceasing flow beneath. He lay down on the soft, cool earth of the cavern floor. He offered his exhaustion, his worries, and his need for control to the vast, dark current of the Sarasvati. He stopped trying to be the overseer. He became the root, trusting the unseen labor entirely. The sound of the deep, steady current became his lullaby, a powerful, rhythmic assurance that life, nourishment, and renewal were flowing perfectly without his help. His body and mind surrendered completely, sinking into the most profound, restorative rest he had ever known. You are there now. The surface effort is over. Trust the flow beneath you. Trust the wisdom of the deep, dark current. Rest, knowing that the most important work of healing is happening right now, in the silence and the dark, guided by the weaver of the underworld river. The architect of the invisible sun. Allow your entire being to feel lighter now. Imagine that any weight, heaviness, or density held in your chest, your limbs, or your mind is gently dissolving and floating away. Tonight, we embrace the wisdom of joyous lightness, the profound, simple truth that your inner well-being is not defined by the shadows of the world, but by the eternal, self-sustaining light within. We listen to the calming story of the architect of the invisible sun. Inhale deeply, inviting a wave of soft warmth into your heart, and exhale completely, releasing the gravity of the day. In a vast, cold land high in the mountains, a place often covered by weeks of heavy clouds and long, dark winters, there stood an immense, dome-shaped building known as the Grand Library of Mirth. This library was legendary because even on the darkest days, its interior was bathed in a radiant golden light that required no lamps or external fires. The custodian of this library was a small, perpetually joyful woman named Mudita, whose name itself meant joy. Mudita was not a scholar. She was the master of its architecture. She had designed the building to run on one single profound principle. The light of the heart is more powerful than the darkness of the sky. Mudita's apprentice, a young man named Gambhira, meaning deep or serious, was a brilliant scholar plagued by a profound, oppressive sense of self-importance and guilt. Gambhīra believed that all spiritual life had to be solemn, heavy, and earned through great suffering. His mind was perpetually burdened by self-criticism and the weight of the world's sorrows. Gambhīra's greatest worry was the light in the library. He knew it was supernatural, but he feared it was unsustainable. He spent his days checking the walls for cracks, searching the floor for hidden wires, and worrying that his own persistent gloom would extinguish the precious radiance. One morning, the light faltered. The day was the darkest of the year. A blizzard raged outside, and the ceiling of the library, though still glowing faintly, was noticeably dimmer. Panic seized Gambhīra. He rushed to find Mudita, who was sitting quietly in the center of the library, simply basking in the reduced, yet still present glow. "Master Mudita," Gambhīra exclaimed, his voice tight with anxiety. "The light is failing. I knew it. The day is too dark, my worries are too heavy, and my guilt must be draining the energy. What grand, powerful action must we take now? What immense task, what sacrifice must I perform to restore the sun?" Mudita opened her eyes, which shone with an internal, steady light that seemed to mirror the glow of the room. She smiled, her expression completely undisturbed by the change in light. "Ah, Gambhīra," she said gently. "You mistake the brightness for the light. The light is not failing, my dear boy. The reflection is simply adjusting to the profound darkness outside. You believe that you must earn the light through struggle and solemnity. You believe that your own seriousness is required to sustain it. But I tell you the truth of this architecture. The invisible sun is entirely self-sustaining, and its fuel is pure, effortless lightness. Release the weight of the world from your shoulders now. Your solemnity is not required. Your burden is not necessary. Allow yourself the profound lightness of simply being." Mudita rose and led Gambhīra to the exact center of the dome. "The secret of the library," she whispered, "is that there is no external source. There are no wires, no hidden fires. The light you see is simply the collective reflection of the unconditional, quiet joy that the architecture itself embodies. You, Gambhīra, are trying to drag the massive physical sun down from the sky through the sheer force of your will and solemn effort. But the light we run on is the invisible sun, a source that demands nothing but letting go." She explained the three principles of internal luminosity. Release the gravity of guilt. Your guilt and self-criticism are weights, Gambhīra. They are heavy, dark stones you carry in your mind. Every time you say, "I should have done better," or "I am not worthy," you are diminishing the light. The first step is to simply set the stones down. Practice sympathetic joy, mudita. You believe joy must be your own achievement. But mudita, this quality of sympathetic joy, is the realization that joy is boundless. The light of the library is sustained by the joy of all beings, not just your own solemn effort. When you rejoice in the well-being of a stranger, or the simple beauty of a falling snowflake, you are adding fuel to the invisible sun without effort. Trust the eternal source, unconditional light. The light does not need to be proved. It does not need to be earned. It is the fundamental, inherent state of the awakened heart. Even when the outer world is in total darkness, the core of the heart remains luminous. You are already light. Imagine that you are inhaling the light of unconditional joy from every sleeping creature, every calm space, and every happy memory. You are sustained by a boundless, effortless source of warmth. Gambhīra sat down, his head spinning. But Master, if I let go of the solemnity and the guilt, will I not become irresponsible? Will I not become frivolous and useless? Mudita laughed, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to chase away the shadows in the room. Irresponsibility is born from tension, Gambhira, not from lightness. When the light is strong, you see clearly. You do not stumble. Your true strength comes not from how heavy you are, but from how light you are. Lightness allows you to move with grace, to choose your actions, the silent pause, with clarity, and to rest completely. The goal of this architecture is to teach you that the profound, restorative rest you seek is not a heavy, deserved silence. It is the simple, joyous unbinding of all your self-imposed limitations. She instructed him to practice the joyful surrender necessary for rest. Imagine you are not lying down in a bed, but you are floating on a warm, silent, self-sustaining sea of light. This sea is the unconditional joy that supports everything. Offer the heaviness of your guilt to this sea. Offer the density of your self-criticism to this sea. The sea does not judge the weight. It simply dissolves it, transforming the heavy stone back into pure, effortless light. Gambhira closed his eyes and tried it. He visualized the immense, dark, heavy stone of his self-seriousness being gently placed on the sea of light. It did not sink. It immediately began to dissolve, leaving behind only a radiant warmth. He felt an immediate, profound release of tension in his chest and jaw. The light in the library, though still soft, seemed sufficient, stable, and utterly dependable. Mudita placed her warm hand on his shoulder. Sleep, Gambhira. Sleep in the profound certainty that you are the architect of your own invisible sun. You do not need to earn your peace. You do not need to fight the darkness. You simply need to be light. Rest now, completely free of weight and duty. He worried constantly that he would be lost, forgotten, or consumed by the forest's overwhelming power. Vyoga's task was to map a small, isolated clearing he had discovered, a place he considered his own refuge. He spent weeks trying to draw the boundaries of this clearing, meticulously noting every rock and bush, determined to define his safe space. One evening, Vyoga returned to the main camp, exhausted and distressed. He held up his map, which showed only a tiny, empty circle surrounded by a thick, aggressive black line representing the terrifying, impenetrable forest. Master Saha, Vyoga confessed, his voice trembling, I cannot finish the map. I have drawn the boundaries of my clearing, but the black line of the forest is too dense, too menacing. I feel so small and fragile against this vastness. I feel utterly alone and threatened by the complexity of the world outside my safe space. How can I possibly find peace when I am so separate from everything? Saha took the map, not with judgment, but with infinite compassion. He looked at the stark, isolated circle Vyoga had drawn. My dear Vyoga, Saha said softly, tracing the thick black boundary line with his finger. Your suffering comes from this line. You believe that drawing a boundary around your own little clearing, your mind, your identity, your safe space, is the path to security. But I tell you, Vyoga, the line of separation is an illusion, and the illusion is your pain. You are trying to be an island in a vast, interconnected ocean. The island suffers profoundly because it fears the water. Yet the water is the only thing that sustains its sand and its very structure. Feel the imaginary boundaries around your own identity softening now. Let the walls you built throughout the day, the walls of roles, duties, and perceived differences, gently dissolve. Saha led Vyoga to a massive ancient oak tree that seemed to hold up a corner of the sky. Observe this great oak, Vyoga, Saha instructed. It stands tall, seemingly independent. But is it truly alone? Vyoga looked. Yes, it is strong. It is self-sufficient. Saha shook his head gently. Look deeper, Vyoga. The oak's strength comes from its interbeing. Its leaves are made of the sun that shone 3 weeks ago. Its sap is the rain that fell 50 miles away. Its bark is the nourishment drawn up by the fungal network connected to 1,000 other trees. Even the air you breathe right now contains the oxygen released by this oak moments ago. If you take the oak away, the wind changes, the soil erodes, the fungus dies, and the deer lose their shelter. The oak is not separate from the forest. The oak is the forest, expressed in this particular form. You are the oak, Vyoga. Your peace is not found in building a higher wall, but in realizing the deep supportive network that sustains your very life. Saha then picked up Vyoga's map of separation and slowly, deliberately tore it in half. Vyoga gasped in shock. "Do not worry," Saha said calmly. "We will create the true map, the map of interconnection." Saha unrolled a clean, vast sheet of parchment. He did not draw any boundaries. Instead, he began to draw fine, glowing lines connecting everything. He drew a line from the oak tree to the tiny stream flowing 50 yards away. He drew a line from the roots of the oak to the distant mountain peak, showing how the winter snow was the nourishment for the spring thaw. He drew a line from the soil to the stars, showing how the carbon cycles linked the forest to the cosmos. The true map shows that your small, isolated clearing is, in reality, the perfect center point of the entire universe. Every direction is connected to you, and you are connected to every direction. The anxiety you feel in isolation, the fear that you must fight the world alone, is exhausting and unsustainable. The peace you seek is the profound, effortless security that comes from knowing you are supported by everything. You are the center of the true map now. Feel the connection. The warmth of the blanket is the sun. The silence around you is the vast support of the unmoving earth. The air you breathe is the essential link to all life. Saha then spoke of the fear of night and rest. When you enter sleep, you fear the dissolution of the I, the little clearing you worked so hard to define. You fear that if you let go of your conscious boundaries, you will be lost in the vastness. But sleep, Vyoga, is simply the journey to the core of the true map. It is the moment when the conscious effort of the boundary line ceases, and you realize that you are not losing yourself. You are rejoining the whole. The deep restorative power of sleep is the power of the infinite forest itself, flowing through you. Your memories are sorted by the wisdom of the forest's own system. Your body is healed by the resources of the entire system, not just your personal effort. He instructed Vyoga to practice the meditation of the root. Tonight, lie down and imagine you are the great oak. Let your conscious mind become the leaves, resting softly, surrendering to the dark. Now, guide your awareness deep into your body, down through the earth, until you feel the vast, supportive network of the forest roots beneath you. Feel the connection to everything, the water, the distant mountains, the other beings sleeping near you. Rest in the certainty that you are not resting alone. You are resting as the universe itself. Every element is working in harmony to hold you, to sustain you, and to restore you. Vyoga lay down beside the glowing true map. He closed his eyes, and instead of drawing the thick, dark line of separation, he focused on the radiant lines of connection. He dissolved the boundaries of his body, letting his awareness flow out, realizing he was made of the same starlight, the same rain, the same silent earth as the rest of the infinite forest. The anxiety of isolation vanished, replaced by a profound, deep-seated sense of safety. He was utterly secure because he was not an island. He He was the entire ocean, expressed in a single, breathing wave. Saha stood watch as the apprentice finally deeply surrendered to the supportive power of the whole. Rest now, Vyoga. You are safe. You are essential. You are connected. Sleep in the profound, boundless embrace of the infinite forest. The keeper of the unfolding scroll. Allow your entire body to become soft and heavy, sinking into the stillness. Tonight, we honor the virtue of patience, recognizing that the greatest gifts, such as deep rest, unfold only in their own time, never by force. Release the internal clock that demands an immediate result. We listen to the calming story of the keeper of the unfolding scroll. Inhale deeply, breathing in the quiet stability of the night, and exhale completely, letting go of all restlessness and urgency. In a remote, timeless sanctuary high in the mountains stood the Vault of Beginnings. This vault contained the rarest and most sacred texts, all preserved on long, tightly rolled scrolls. These scrolls held the profound wisdom that every significant event, every piece of knowledge, and every transformation requires a specific, unhurried duration to manifest. The guardian of this vault was a monk named Kanti, a living embodiment of patience. Kanti's life was measured not in days, but in the slow, deliberate time it took for a scroll to be properly unfurled and read. Kanti had a disciple named Tvara, meaning haste or urgency, a talented but intensely restless scholar. Tvara saw life as a race against time. He valued speed, instant results, and efficiency above all else. He suffered intensely from impatience, which fueled his anxiety and sabotaged his sleep. Tvara's greatest desire was to read the most sacred text in the vault, the scroll of the deepest peace. He knew the immense wisdom it contained would instantly cure his restless mind. One evening, Tvara stood before the scroll, his hands trembling with anticipation. "Master Kanti," Tvara pleaded, his voice high and tight, "I must read this scroll now. My mind is racing, and I have wasted too many hours in fruitless worry. If I could just read the answer, I would instantly achieve peace and be able to rest. Please, let me unroll it quickly." Kanti, who was simply sitting in stillness, guarding the atmosphere of the vault, did not move. "Tvara," Kanti said, his voice slow and resonant, "the scroll of the deepest peace contains a truth that can only be absorbed when it is given its full, proper time. It requires patience, the willingness to accept the necessary duration. The scroll itself is ancient, Tvara. If you unroll it too quickly, if you pull at it with haste and impatience, two things will happen. First, the fragile parchment will tear. Second, the ink will shatter and flake away, leaving you with an empty sheet. The answer you seek is not in the words, but in the unfolding itself. Acknowledge any impatience you feel right now, the desire for sleep to happen faster, or for your thoughts to stop sooner. This urgency is the pull that threatens to tear the scroll of your rest." Kanti explained that the essence of Kanti was not passivity, but active acceptance. When you try to fall asleep, Tvara, your impatience is the sudden, violent pull on the parchment. Your mind tears itself, and the wisdom of rest, the ink, flakes away, leaving you with an empty, agitated state. Kanti is the active choice to rest in the necessary time. It is the realization that the process is the destination. Kanti demonstrated. He took the scroll of deepest peace, and with hands that moved with infinite meditative slowness, he began to unfurl it. The process was mesmerizingly slow. Every movement was deliberate, respectful of the ancient paper, pausing for long moments to allow the fibers to relax and the air to adjust to the exposed surface. The process was demanding, requiring total presence, yet utterly peaceful. The first line of the scroll, Khanti murmured, his voice barely audible, reads, "The seed does not argue with the soil over the time required to sprout." He paused for nearly a full minute, allowing the simple truth to settle deeply into the silent space of the vault. The second line reads, "The ocean tide does not measure its movement against the speed of a rushing river." And he paused again, letting the natural rhythm of slowness saturate the room. Khanti looked at Dvara. "Your impatience, Dvara, is the failure to accept the duration of reality. When you rush your rest, you are arguing with the soil. When you fret about not sleeping, you are trying to rush the ocean tide. Surrender to the knowledge that rest is an ocean tide. It flows in slowly, powerfully, and perfectly on its own schedule. Your only task is to cease the resistance." Khanti explained the 4 practices of the slow unfolding for the restless mind. Acknowledge the duration, acceptance. When your mind races, acknowledge the thought, and then remind yourself, this state requires time to dissolve. I grant it the time it needs. Do not try to rush the dissolving. Rest in the hinge, the fold. The crucial moment in the scroll is the fold, the point where the paper is most rigid, most likely to tear. In your mind, the fold is the moment of greatest restlessness or anxiety. When you feel that tension, stop the movement entirely. Rest in the hinge, allowing the pressure to equalize slowly without snapping the structure. Witness the text, presence without attachment. When the text, a thought, a worry, is revealed, do not grasp it, analyze it, or react to it. Simply read the line as a temporary piece of information, and then let your focus return to the vast, empty parchment of your awareness. The text is not permanent. The scroll is. Trust the unfolding. Surrender. The scroll always reveals its wisdom in the end. Trust that your body and mind possess an innate, perfect timing for rest. The perfect time is simply now, as it is. Khanti stopped unfurling the scroll. Only 3 lines were visible, but the profound silence of the vault was now filled with a deep, tangible sense of peace. You have absorbed more peace in this slow, patient moment, Dvara, than you would have in a year of frantic reading, Khanti said. The wisdom is not in the quantity of words consumed, but in the quality of the attention given to the present moment's duration. Dvara finally slumped onto the cool stone floor, his body exhausted not from labor, but from the immense relief of releasing his frantic need for speed. He realized his anxiety about sleep was entirely rooted in his impatience, his refusal to let the natural process unfold. "Master," Dvara whispered, a true lightness entering his voice for the first time. "I understand. The peace I seek is not after the effort. It is in the patience of the effort itself." Khanti nodded, his eyes serene. "Sleep, Dvara. You do not need to read the final line of the scroll tonight. Simply surrender to the rhythm of the unfolding. Allow the night to take its time. Allow your body to take its time, and allow your rest to arrive in the perfect, unhurried moment that is already here. Rest now in the boundless acceptance of the present moment's duration. You are the keeper. You are the scroll. Allow yourself to unfold perfectly in the deep, unwavering patience of the night. The alchemist of the single drop. Allow yourself to feel completely uncomplicated. Release the necessity of titles, roles, plans, and problems. Imagine shedding all the complex layers you accumulated throughout the day. Tonight, we embrace the power of ultimate simplicity, the pure, unadulterated essence of the present moment. We listen to the calming story of the alchemist of the single drop. Inhale gathering a sense of pure, clean clarity, and exhale, letting go of all mental clutter and confusion. In the heart of a vibrant, sensory-rich valley known for its hundreds of exotic spices and complex, multi-layered flavors, lived a master alchemist named Rasa. Rasa was renowned not for creating intricate compounds, but for a singular, profound ability. She could reduce any substance, no matter how complex, to its eka rasa, its single taste or essential unified flavor. Rasa maintained a pristine, silent laboratory dedicated to simplicity. Every vessel was clear, every surface was spotless, and her greatest tool was her own calm, discerning palate. Rasa's apprentice, a young man named Vibhanga, meaning complexity or analysis, was constantly tormented by the sheer volume of his experiences. Vibhanga spent his days trying to categorize every sensation, analyze every event, and understand the thousands of conflicting flavors of his life. His mind was a chaotic, crowded kitchen, cluttered with conflicting emotions, memories, and urgent future plans. This complexity rendered him utterly exhausted and unable to find a clear point of rest. One evening, Vibhanga brought his master a complex, foul-tasting concoction he had desperately brewed, a mix of every single emotion and conflict he had experienced that day. The bitterness of a harsh word, the sweetness of a small success, the sharp tang of anxiety, and the dull, heavy flavor of fatigue. "Master Rasa," Vibhanga pleaded, placing the dark, thick mixture before her. "This is the taste of my mind. It is chaotic, confusing, and overwhelming. It is the taste of my suffering. I cannot rest while my mind churns through these thousands of flavors. How can I reduce this terrifying complexity to a manageable simplicity? How do I stop tasting everything all at once?" Rasa looked at the glass, not with distaste, but with serene acceptance. She saw the turmoil and the mental effort invested in creating such a complicated suffering. "Vibhanga," Rasa said, her voice smooth and clear as fresh water, "you believe that complexity is the truth, and simplicity is the goal you must achieve. But I tell you, complexity is merely the surface activity. The countless ripples, eka rasa, the single taste, is the fundamental truth beneath all those ripples. You are trying to separate the flavors you like from the flavors you hate, but they are all brewed in the same vessel. The only way to find peace is to reduce them, not to separate them. Feel the surface of your own mind now. It is churning with the day's various flavors: success, worry, fatigue, irritation. Do not try to isolate one flavor. Accept the entire complex mix for what it is." Rasa picked up a simple glass dropper. She dipped it into the chaotic mixture and extracted a single tiny, perfect drop. She placed the rest of the murky liquid aside. She then guided Vibhanga to a clean, empty glass beaker. "The first step to finding eka rasa," Rasa explained, "is to isolate the pure drop of the present moment. Release the vast volume of your past and future complexity. We work only with what is here now." She then began her alchemical process, which required profound stillness, not frantic heat or complex formulae. She added nothing to the drop. She merely waited, observing it with perfect, non-judgmental attention. When we observe the complexity of the mind, the thousands of thoughts and feelings, we believe each one has a different essence, a unique problem that requires a unique solution. But deep alchemical truth reveals that all thoughts share the same fundamental nature. The bitterness of worry, the sweetness of joy, the sharp tang of planning. When you strip away the mental labels and the emotional reactions, what remains? Only pure, unadulterated awareness. Focus now on the single pure drop of your present moment's awareness. Let the specific content of any thought dissolve. Focus only on the sheer fact that awareness is present. Rasa continued, her voice growing soft and hypnotic. The greatest secret of Eka Rasa is that the taste of profound suffering and the taste of profound joy, when completely reduced to their essence, both taste of freedom. They both taste of pure consciousness. When you cling to the bitter thought, you suffer. When you cling to the sweet thought, you also suffer, because the sweetness must eventually vanish. But when you simply taste the awareness that held the bitterness and the sweetness, you taste something utterly stable, utterly simple, and utterly peaceful. She slowly, gently poured the single drop into the clean, empty beaker. The empty beaker is the state of sleep vibhanga. It is the final reduction, the ultimate simplicity. The complexity of the day is gone. The flavors are washed away. Only the pure clarity of the glass remains. Your fear of sleep is the fear that this final simplicity means nothingness. But I tell you, simplicity is not nothingness. It is fullness. It is the non-dual taste of pure being. Rasa instructed Vibhanga on the practice of the final reduction for rest. Isolate the single drop, the present. Bring your entire attention to the most basic, simple sensation you have, the cool air on your skin, or the gentle, even rhythm of your exhale. This is your pure drop. Dissolve the flavor, release the label. If a thought about a meeting comes, do not taste its stress. Simply say, thought arises, awareness registers. Finished. Release the complexity, the label, the story. Rest in the beaker, embrace the simplicity. Rest your consciousness in the clear, empty space between your breaths, between your thoughts. This simple, unified space is the Eka Rasa of your being. It has no conflict, no worry, and no complex demand. It is simply peace. The restless mind is obsessed with making one flavor dominant. It wants the sweetness of success or the bitterness of blame to define the entire solution. But the simple truth is that they are all one. They are all expressions of the same awareness. Rasa then took the complex, chaotic concoction that Vibhanga had brought, and with a graceful movement, poured it out onto the thirsty earth outside. Go now, Vibhanga. You do not need to taste the chaos tonight. You do not need to solve the complexity. You have done the work of the day. Allow the alchemist of the single drop to do the final simple reduction. Surrender to the unified simple taste of your own being. Vibhanga closed his eyes, and instead of the 1,000 flavors, he found the quiet, pure, unadulterated taste of rest. He surrendered the chaotic kitchen of his mind and fell into the deep, clear simplicity of sleep. Rest now in the clarity of the single drop. You are simple. You are pure. You are whole. Sleep in the unified, peaceful taste of Eka Rasa. The master of the invisible bridge settled deeply into your resting place. Allow yourself to feel the solid, unwavering support beneath you, the bed, the floor, the earth itself. Tonight, we move beyond relying on visible support and locate the true source of stability, your unwavering inner foundation. We listen to the calming story of the master of the invisible bridge. Inhale deeply, drawing in a sense of deep, unshakable fortitude, and exhale, letting go of all fear and defensiveness. In a rugged, mountainous realm where two sheer cliffs faced each other across a terrifyingly deep chasm, lived a legendary architect known as Dhammajaya, the victorious in truth. Dhammajaya was renowned for building only one thing: invisible bridges. These bridges were magnificent works of engineering and meditative will. They were constructed not with stone or steel, but with an unparalleled mastery of adhitthana, an unwavering foundational inner resolve, and an absolute trust in the laws of physics and stillness. Once built, the bridge was utterly firm, yet completely unseen. Dhammajaya had a gifted but profoundly insecure apprentice named Bhaya, meaning fear. Bhaya excelled at laying the visible planks and ropes of temporary crossings, but he could never bring himself to trust the finished, invisible structures. He saw the empty space and was instantly overwhelmed by the terror of falling. Bhaya suffered immensely, especially at night. His mind was a churning abyss, constantly filled with the terrifying illusion of instability, the fear that his job was insecure, that his friends would abandon him, or that his body would fail. He lacked the inner foundation to stand firm against the winds of anxiety. One twilight evening, Dhammajaya called Bhaya to the edge of the deepest chasm, where his greatest invisible bridge spanned the void. The wind howled, and the visible world seemed to mock the idea of stability. "Bhaya," Dhammajaya commanded, his voice steady against the wind. "Cross the chasm. The invisible bridge is complete. It is the strongest structure I have ever built." Bhaya peered across the empty air to the other side. His legs locked, his breath hitched in his throat. "Master," Bhaya whispered, paralyzed, "I cannot. The gap is too wide. The air is empty. I see nothing but the void. If I cannot see the visible support, how can I trust my weight to it? I will surely fall into the abyss of my fears." Dhammajaya stood calmly on the very edge, entirely unafraid. "Your fear, Bhaya, is the delusion of the external foundation. You believe that stability must be loud, visible, and tangible. But I tell you, Bhaya, the true source of stability is always invisible, and it is always within you. The physical bridge may be invisible, but the laws that hold it are not. The geometry is true, the tension is perfect, and the foundation is deep. Your challenge is not to see the bridge, but to trust the invisible truth that already supports it. Acknowledge the invisible support beneath your own rest now. The safety of your room, the silence of the night, the sheer structural integrity of the floor and the earth. You do not see the full foundation, yet you trust it implicitly." Dhammajaya stepped out onto the invisible bridge, walking slowly and deliberately, his form appearing to float above the dizzying chasm. He paused mid-span and turned back to Bhaya. "Your internal suffering is the belief that the empty space between the facts of your life, the space between your last paycheck and your next, the space between your health and sickness, the space between one breath and the next, is a void that must be actively filled with worry. But that empty space is not a void. It is the adhitthana, the space of unwavering resolve. It is the unshakable foundation of your inherent being." Dhammajaya then explained the 3 practices required to trust the invisible foundation, linking them to sleep. Stop seeking the visible plank. Release external proof. When you lie down to rest, you seek visible proof of security, a perfect plan for tomorrow, a guarantee of silence, a certainty of deep sleep. This search for visible planking keeps you awake. Stop demanding visible proof, and instead, trust the unshakable, invisible structure of the present moment. Locate the anchor, the core resolve. The bridge is anchored in the bedrock of the mountain. Your mind must be anchored in the bedrock of your deepest intention. Tonight, your intention is not to sleep, but to rest. Rest is an act of inner resolve, the commitment to see struggle, regardless of how the wind of anxiety blows. Stand on the truth, unwavering trust. Step onto the invisible bridge by trusting the truth of your own being, the truth that you are inherently capable of rest, inherently worthy of peace and inherently stable, regardless of the chaos in the air. When the wind of anxiety blows tonight, when a worry or a doubt rushes through your mind, do not try to grab a visible railing. Simply root your feet on the adithana of your deep resolve, and the wind will pass harmlessly over you. Bhaya watched his master standing perfectly still in the middle of the void. He realized that the master's stability was not an external trait, but a profound, cultivated inner state. The bridge was not supporting Dhammajaya. Dhammajaya's resolve was supporting the idea of the bridge. Bhaya took a deep, centering breath. He placed his foot out into the empty air. The instinct to pull back was overwhelming, but he focused all his attention on the truth of his master's voice. The law of stability is true. The space is not a void. He slowly placed his weight down. He felt nothing tangible, yet he did not fall. The invisible support was utterly firm. He took another step, then another, guided only by his inner faith in the truth of the structure. He crossed the chasm, arriving on the far side utterly transformed. The fear was gone, replaced by a profound, radiant sense of self-possession. "Master," Bhaya said, his voice now strong and clear, "I found it. The bridge is real because the resolve to stand is real." Dhammajaya nodded, his eyes shining. "Sleep is the ultimate crossing, Bhaya. Every time you close your eyes, you step onto the invisible bridge of surrender. Do not look down into the void of past regrets or future fears. Look straight ahead, guided by the light of your own unwavering resolve to rest. The anxiety you feel in the darkness is merely the illusion that there is nothing beneath you, but you are supported by the entire invisible architecture of your life. The foundation is firm. You are standing now on the firm, invisible bridge of your own adithana. Rest in the absolute security of your inner resolve. Sleep, knowing you are the anchor, unshakable and utterly safe. The calligrapher of the unseen current allow your body to become profoundly relaxed, finding that perfect balance between alertness and total surrender. Release the heavy grip of conscious effort. Tonight, we embrace the deep, liberating wisdom of Wu Wei, the art of effortless action. We listen to the calming story of the calligrapher of the unseen current. Inhale deeply, drawing in the sense of a slow, effortless drift, and exhale, letting go of all friction, resistance, and striving. In the heart of an ancient walled city, famed for its artistic discipline, lived the Grandmaster calligrapher Lao. Lao was celebrated throughout the empire for his unparalleled brushwork. His calligraphy was not merely beautiful. It seemed to possess a life of its own, flowing across the paper with a spontaneous, fluid grace that defied technique. Lao's method was a total surrender to the principle of Wu Wei. Action that arises from stillness, effort that feels effortless. He taught that the true art was not in making the stroke, but in allowing the stroke to happen. Lao had an apprentice named Zheng, meaning struggle or contend, a highly ambitious and technically skilled young man. Zheng was obsessed with control. He would grip his brush so tightly that his knuckles turned white, his brow furrowed with immense concentration, determined to force the ink into the perfect, powerful form he envisioned. Despite his intense effort, Zheng's work was always rigid, angular, and lifeless. His struggle was evident in every strained line. This inability to relax fueled his insomnia. His mind was perpetually trying to force the solution to every problem, including the problem of not sleeping. Release the brush. Lao walked over to a nearby river, which flowed outside the studio. The current was slow, powerful and utterly effortless in its movement. Look at the water, Jung. Does the water struggle against the riverbed? Does it force itself around the stones? No, it simply yields. It accepts the shape of the riverbed, and in that surrender, it moves with unstoppable power. The flow is the effortless action. Lao then took a fresh sheet of paper and dipped Jung's brush into the ink. He held the brush loosely, so lightly that it seemed it might fall from his hand. His body was completely relaxed, his breathing deep and even. There was no tension in his shoulder, no struggle in his expression. He did not plan the stroke. He simply allowed his hand to move, guided by an invisible internal current, the stillness within. The brush swept across the paper in a single, fluid, breathtaking line. It was strong where it needed to be strong, delicate where it needed to be delicate, and perfectly balanced. It was the river of life, flowing with a spontaneous, living grace. This stroke, Jung, is entirely Wu Wei, Lao explained, setting the brush down. My hand was merely the instrument. The energy that created the stroke was the unseen current, the natural, spontaneous wisdom of the body when the striving mind steps aside. Your struggle for sleep is exactly the same. You lie down and command, I must sleep. I must stop thinking. I must control my body. This is the frantic attempt to force the stroke. And like your handwriting, the result is rigid and lifeless. Stop forcing the stroke of sleep. Allow your body to move with the same spontaneous internal current that guides the flow of the river. Lao then gave Jung the final instruction for rest. Release the brush grip, surrender control. Let go of the tension in your hands, your jaw, and your mind. Release the feeling that you must actively do something to sleep. The greatest action for rest is non-action. Become the current, trust the flow. Trust the deep inherent wisdom of your body to restore itself. Your body does not need your conscious command to digest food or beat your heart. It does not need your conscious command to sleep. It knows the way. Allow the natural internal current to carry you. Rest in the water, accept the drift. If a thought arises, do not fight it. Do not try to push it away. See it as a leaf floating on the river of life. Simply observe the leaf and then let the current carry it away without your effort. You are not the leaf, you are the water itself. The anxiety that keeps you awake, Jung, is the fear that if you let go of the control, you will drift into chaos. But the truth of Wu Wei is that when you surrender the false control of the ego, you drift into the perfect order of the universe's spontaneous flow. Your task tonight is to become the calligrapher of the unseen current. You are not writing the words of sleep. You are allowing the quiet, perfect flow of the universe to write the silence upon the parchment of your mind. Jung picked up his brush again, holding it with an almost childlike lightness. He watched the river flow. He internalized the feel of his master's effortless stroke. He let go of his ambition, his fear of failure, and his need for perfection. He lifted the brush, and this time, there was no sweat, no white knuckles, and no strained effort. He simply allowed his arm to move, guided by the profound stillness he had cultivated. The line that flowed from the brush was imperfect. It had minor tremors and natural variations, but it possessed a vibrant, flowing energy that was alive and free. It was the river, as it truly was. Jung closed his eyes, feeling the release in his shoulder, and understood. The great stroke of sleep required not struggle, but surrender. Rest now in the total, peaceful surrender of Wu Wei. You are the water. You are the flow. You are the perfect, effortless silence. the librarian of the faded ink. Allow your body to settle so completely that you feel as if you are dissolving into the support beneath you. Release the need to review, rehash, or replay the events of the day. Tonight, we embrace the deep, liberating truth that the past is only a story, and the story holds no power over your present peace. We listen to the calming story of the librarian of the faded ink. Inhale deeply, breathing in the quiet dust of aged paper, and exhale, letting go of the emotional residue of every memory. In a vast, silent underground complex, carved into the cool bedrock of the earth, lay the archive of the vanished day. This archive contained every single experience, thought, and sensation ever recorded, but stored in a unique medium. Scrolls and pages written with ink that was designed to gently and naturally fade to grey over time. The custodian of this colossal archive was an ancient, meticulous monk named Smrti, the memory. Smrti's sacred duty was not to preserve the clarity of the text, but to ensure the smooth and non-violent fading of the ink. He understood that the only way to avoid the suffering of the past was to allow its emotional intensity to naturally diminish. Smrti had a new apprentice, a young man named Rupa, meaning form or appearance, whose mind was fiercely brilliant but terribly burdened. Rupa suffered from memory clinging. He would mentally reread every conversation, re-experience every mistake, and re-argue every conflict of the day, as if the ink was still bold, wet, and demanding his immediate attention. Rupa's sleep was impossible because his mind was the archive at midnight, 1,000 bright screaming memories refusing to fade. One night, Rupa came to Smrti, holding a handful of scrolls he had just mentally reread. The text was the record of an awkward conversation he had had that morning. In Rupa's mind, the ink was still black, sharp, and painful. "Master Smrti," Rupa confessed, his eyes wide with sleepless anxiety. "The past is alive. I cannot leave the memories alone. I feel compelled to read every line again, searching for the perfect thing I should have said. The ink is still so vivid, the emotion so fresh. How can I rest when the past is so loud and so demanding?" Smrti, who was carefully wiping a cloth across an old faded scroll, smiled a calm, profound smile. "My dear Rupa," Smrti said, his voice soft as the settling dust, "you confuse the clarity of the past with the necessity of the present. The ink you read is only bold because you are holding the lamp of your attention too close to the paper. The purpose of this archive is to teach one thing. The past is designed to fade. The pain of yesterday is merely the leftover color that you are actively choosing to keep bright. Acknowledge the memory or thought that is currently demanding your attention. See it not as a demand, but as a faded script on an old, brittle scroll. Do not bring the lamp closer." Smrti led Rupa deeper into the vaults, into a vast chamber where the scrolls were hundreds of years old. The light here was low, diffused and cool. He pointed to a stack of scrolls representing a severe political conflict from a forgotten era. When Rupa looked at them, the ink was a thin, silvery grey, barely readable, entirely devoid of emotional charge. This was once a catastrophe that kept an entire civilization awake for a decade, Smrti explained. People burned with anger, wept with sorrow, and fought endlessly over these words. Yet now, the ink is almost gone. The words remain, but the suffering is gone. The suffering was not in the words themselves, Rupa. The suffering was in the clinging to the vividness of the ink, the refusal to let the emotions naturally diminish. Smrti then described the difference between memory, Smrti, and clinging, Upadana. Memory is the ability to retain the facts, the dry script on the page. This is useful for learning. Clinging is the compulsion to reread the script, splash it with fresh emotion, and keep the ink perpetually wet and dark. This is the source of insomnia. When you review the awkward conversation of this morning, Rupa, you are not reading the old scroll. You are dipping your own pen into your heart's emotion and rewriting the script in bold new ink. Do not dip your pen. Do not rewrite the script. The conversation is over. The emotion belongs to the past. Smarty demonstrated the 4 techniques of fading the ink for restorative rest. Lower the lamp, withdraw attention. When a memory arises, do not illuminate it with high beam attention. Immediately lower the lamp. Withdraw the spotlight of your conscious mind. The memory is still there, but you are not adding energy to its visibility. Acknowledge the grey, non-judgment. See the memory not as a mistake or an emergency, but simply as faded ink. Acknowledge the factual content, e.g., yes, I remember a harsh word was spoken, but refuse to attach the emotional colour, anger, guilt to it. Brush the dust. Release the residue. Imagine your breath is a soft, cool brush. As you exhale, gently brush away the dust and the residue of the past from your mind's inner surface. You are not erasing the page, you are simply making the surface clean and ready for present stillness. Trust the fading, surrender to time. Trust the process of Smarti Viprayukta, non-association with the past. The natural law of the mind is to forget and to fade. Your only job is to stop fighting that natural process. Release the urge to label your current state as good or bad, resting or failing. Tonight, we embrace the wisdom that true peace is found not in eliminating one side of a conflict, but in recognizing that the conflict itself is an illusion. We listen to the calming story of the weaver of the boundless cord. Inhale deeply, breathing in both light and shadow, and exhale, accepting the perfect unity of the present moment. In a hidden, vibrant canyon known as the Canyon of Echoes, lived a master weaver named Samana, whose name meant equal or balanced. Samana was the sole creator of the boundless cord, a fabric woven from threads of absolute darkness and threads of brilliant light, yet possessing a single unified texture that felt like pure silk. Samana's method was the mastery of Advaita, non-duality. She understood that in the grand tapestry of existence, the light and the dark were not enemies to be fought, but essential partners to be woven together. Samana had a disciple named Dvanva, meaning duality or pair of opposites. A talented but perpetually conflicted young man, Dvanva's mind was a constant battleground. He believed that life was a series of choices between opposites. Success was good, failure was bad, wakefulness was necessary, sleep was a fragile enemy. He suffered because he was always trying to eliminate one thread in order to preserve the other. Dvanva's insomnia was acute. He lay awake, his mind frantically arguing, if I stay awake, I lose rest. If I fall asleep, I lose control. This internal debate, this Dvanva, prevented him from settling into either state. One night, Dvanva came to Samana's loom, distressed by the sight of the boundless cord. The fabric was half finished, revealing stark, powerful sections of jet black thread beside shimmering silver-white thread. Master Samana, Dvanva cried, pointing to the loom. Your work is magnificent, but it torments me. Why must you use the black thread? It dilutes the beauty of the silver. I spend all my energy trying to eliminate the dark parts of my day, the mistakes, the failures, the worries, but the darkness returns every night. How can I ever achieve peace if I cannot eliminate the dark side of life? Samana gently paused her shuttle, placing it down beside the intricate weave. Dvandva, Samana said, her voice smooth and balanced. You are afflicted by the tyranny of the label. You label the silver as good and the black as bad, and then you strive to separate what is fundamentally whole. But look closely. The black thread provides the depth that makes the silver thread shimmer. If the entire fabric were pure silver, there would be no contrast, no texture, and the eye would quickly become weary. The dark thread is not the enemy of the light. It is the foundation of the light's visibility. Acknowledge the dark threads in your mind tonight, the worries, the mistakes, the uncomfortable thoughts. Do not try to eliminate them. See them as the essential background that allows the silver thread of your peace to become visible. Samana explained the core truth of Advaita for rest. Your internal conflict over sleep, the battle between I must sleep and I am awake, is the ultimate duality. You believe that one side must win for you to find peace. I tell you, peace is the acceptance that both sides are already woven together. The state of alert wakefulness and the state of deep rest are not separate enemies. They are the light and dark threads of the boundless cord of your consciousness. When you fight the wakefulness, you create friction and heat, which tears the fabric. When you accept the wakefulness, it becomes a quiet, still presence, a profound dark thread that provides the perfect foundation for the silver thread of sleep to eventually emerge. Stop fighting the state you are in. If you are awake, be quietly, peacefully, entirely awake. If you are resting, be completely resting. Accept both as simply the unified state of now. Samana then showed Dvandva the 4 steps of weaving the cord of peace. Cease the elimination, acceptance. Stop trying to eliminate the dark thread. If a worry arises, do not swat it away. Acknowledge it as simply a dark thread of thought. Accept its presence without judgment. This immediate acceptance removes the friction. Locate the true weaver, inner unity. The weaver is the consciousness that holds the shuttle, the awareness that is neither the dark thread nor the light thread, but the silent presence that guides them both. Rest in that inner awareness that is untouched by duality. Find the seamless texture, dissolving conflict. Run your hand over the finished boundless cord. Though the threads are opposite, the texture is unified and smooth. When you accept the opposing thoughts in your mind, I am tired and I am stressed, as merely different textures of the same awareness, the rough conflict dissolves into a single, smooth sense of being. Trust the unified design, profound security. Trust that the pattern of your life, including the difficult parts and the peaceful parts, is ultimately a single, perfect design. You are not fragmented, you are whole. The light of your well-being is only defined by the shadow it casts. This profound security allows the striving to cease. The restless mind is obsessed with living only in the silver thread, but the secure mind, the mind ready for deep rest, knows that the black thread is essential, and it provides the depth of stability that allows the silver to shine. Dvandva looked at the loom again, looked at the... He saw the black thread not as a mistake, but as a necessary anchor. The profound, rich darkness that gave the pattern meaning. He understood that his insomnia was his frantic effort to unravel the dark threads of his day, believing that the resulting pure light would bring rest. But that effort only brought chaos. He sat down by the loom, and for the first time, he welcomed the thoughts that arose. He accepted the memory of the mistake as a dark thread. and the feeling of warmth in his body as a light thread. He did not engage either. He simply rested in the weaver, the quiet awareness that held both. The dualistic conflict in his mind subsided. The struggle between wakefulness and sleep dissolved, leaving a single, calm state of peaceful awareness. Samana, without looking up, softly guided him to the final surrender. Sleep now, Dvandva. Do not divide the night into parts you like and parts you dislike. Allow the entire night, with all its shadows and its stillness, to be a single, unified moment of rest. Rest in the knowledge that you are whole, complete, and utterly balanced. Rest now in the total, peaceful unity of Advaita. You are the weaver. You are the cord. You are the single, boundless texture of peace. The city of weighted value. The ancient city of Kanejima, Gold Island, was a bustling center of commerce, entirely governed by the weight and value of its coinage. Every transaction, every relationship, and every measure of status was dictated by wealth. In a small, dark workshop near the central market lived a talented coinsmith named Hiroto. Hiroto was a master of his craft. His hands could strike a coin with perfect, uniform precision, ensuring the silver content was flawless and the imperial stamp was crisp and true. He was highly valued by the guilds, and his coins were the most trusted in the city. However, Hiroto was deeply unhappy. His work, while essential to the city's economy, felt utterly meaningless to him. His days were spent under the relentless, deafening rhythm of the hammer, converting raw silver into standardized tokens of value. He dealt in weight and metal, never in the actual goods or services the coins represented. He felt disconnected from the flow of human life, feeling that his entire existence was devoted to creating empty symbols of worth. Hiroto's spiritual guide was an old, humble monk named Master Senshin, who maintained a tiny, dilapidated temple on the outskirts of Kanejima. Senshin lived entirely by the principle of right livelihood, sama ajva, engaging in work that creates benefit, avoids harm, and is done with mindfulness and compassion. One morning, the clamor of the city and the existential emptiness of his work became unbearable. Hiroto gathered a pouch filled with his finest silver coins, enough to buy his freedom for life, and sought out Master Senshin. He found Senshin not in meditation, but carefully cultivating a small, struggling patch of lotus flowers in a murky pond near the temple. Master Senshin, Hiroto said, dropping the heavy pouch of coins onto the ground with a dull thud. I am trapped. I am the most skilled coinsmith in the city, yet I feel I am doing nothing but making noise and creating hollow currency. I spend my life measuring worth, but my life has no worth. How can I escape this meaningless labor and find a right livelihood? Senshin didn't look up from the muddy water. You wish to escape the hammer, Hiroto. You wish to find meaning. That is admirable. But you confuse the tool with the intention and the symbol with the reality. He finally looked at the coins scattered on the mud. These are beautiful tokens, Hiroto, perfectly made, but they are empty. They hold no intrinsic value. They only hold the projection of human agreement. Senshin then pointed to the muddy pond. Look at this lotus. Tell me, what is its true value? Its value is aesthetic, Master, Hiroto replied. It is beautiful, and it provides a sweet scent. And what is the value of the mud it grows in? None. It is waste. But the lotus cannot exist without the mud, Hiroto. The mud is the condition for the lotus. The beautiful flower and the dirty mud are interdependent. Your coins are the mud, the necessary functional base. Your livelihood is judged not by the mud, but by the flower you cultivate with your life's energy. Senshin gave Hiroto his practice. For 1 week, you will leave your hammer and your silver. You will join me in the garden. Your task will be to cultivate and care for these lotuses, but you must approach the mud with the same precision and focus you apply to striking a coin. This is the practice of the inverted value. The practice of the inverted value. Hiroto reluctantly agreed. His first task was to remove the thick layer of unhealthy algae choking the surface of the pond. The work was slow, dirty, and required none of the explosive energy he was used to applying with his hammer. As he worked, he realized the task required immense mindfulness. He had to scoop out the thick algae without disturbing the delicate roots of the lotus beneath. Too much force, and he would uproot the potential flower. Too little effort, and the algae would remain. He found that the precision he once applied to measuring silver now had to be applied to caring for life. He learned the patience of the natural world. He couldn't force the lotus to grow. He could only remove the conditions that prevented its growth. You see, Hiroto, Senshin observed one afternoon, your old work, making coins, was about controlling and fixing value. This work, gardening, is about releasing value. You are not creating the flower. You are simply creating the space for the flower to express the value that is already inherent in the mud. Hiroto began to apply the teaching of right livelihood. Avoid harm, mud. His work must remove conditions that harm life, the choking algae. Create benefit, water. His work must create conditions that nourish life, clean, aerated water. Mindful presence, flower. His work must be done with complete attention, seeing the potential in every moment. The coins he used to strike were fixed and final. The lotus garden was fluid and required continuous, gentle adjustment. He realized that the stress he felt in the mint was not the sound of the hammer. It was the stress of trying to impose a fixed value on an ever-changing reality. The hammer and the petal Senshin then introduced the second practice, the practice of the transformed hammer. He led Hiroto back to the smithy, which now felt stale and dark. Senshin pointed to a small, worn hammerhead lying on the floor. You said you wished to escape the hammer, Hiroto, but the hammer is just a tool. It is neither good nor bad. The true right livelihood is not the work you do, but the way you use the tool. Senshin instructed Hiroto to take a raw piece of copper, not silver, and forget the imperial stamp. You will use your master's skill, the precise rhythm and force you know so well, but you will not create currency. You will spend the next 3 days creating only one thing, a simple, perfect copper lotus petal. Hiroto was confused. A petal master? Why waste my skill on something that has no worth? Its worth, Hiroto, is the intention you put into it. The skill of the smith is not defined by the material, silver or copper, nor by the outcome, coin or petal. The skill is defined by the mind with which the hammer strikes. Hiroto returned to the forge. The heat and the noise were still there, but his mind was different. He didn't approach the copper with the anxious rush of a man trying to meet a quota. He approached it with the careful precision of the gardener trying to avoid the roots. He focused the raw energy of the hammer not on uniformity, but on form. He sought to capture the lightness, the curve, and the organic elegance of the lotus in the hard metal. The work required an immense, controlled effort, the same effort he used to strike a perfect coin, but now directed toward beauty and intention, not value and weight. The hammering was rhythmic, but it was no longer deafening. It was a meditation in action. Strike. The force is here. Strike. The copper yields. Strike. The shape unfolds. By the end of the third day, Hiroto held a finished piece. It was a simple copper petal, flawlessly hammered thin, with the delicate organic curve of a living thing. It had no monetary value whatsoever, yet Hiroto felt a profound sense of satisfaction that the coins had never given him. He had created something beautiful that required nothing from the external world for its validation. He finally understood. Right livelihood is not about what you earn. It is about what you create. When he struck the coin, he was separating himself from the world by creating symbols of wealth. When he struck the petal, he was connecting himself to the world by transforming base matter into beautiful form. He took the copper petal and the heavy pouch of silver coins back to Master Senshin. Hiroto returned to Master Senshin, carrying the heavy pouch of silver coins in one hand and the simple, shining copper lotus petal in the other. He placed the petal gently beside the pond, where it caught the morning light, shimmering with a soft, warm glow. He then placed the pouch of coins next to it. "Master," Hiroto said, his voice quiet but firm, "I have found the difference. The coins are perfect, but they are cold and empty. They required the force of control. The petal is also perfect, but it is alive and warm. It required the force of intention. I feel that my skill is not in the silver, but in the mind with which I strike the hammer. The hammer is good if the mind is good." Senshin looked at the two objects, the massive wealth and the humble copper petal. "You have learned well, Hiroto. You no longer seek to escape the hammer, you seek to redeem it. The teaching is complete, but I have one last task for you, concerning the value of your wealth." Senshin handed Hiroto a large, plain burlap sack. "Return to the market of Kanejima. Go to the busiest center of commerce, the place that speaks only of weight and price. Your task is to give away every coin in this pouch, but you must not spend them on yourself, and you must not give them to the beggars who ask. You must seek out only those people whose labor embodies right livelihood, those whose work creates necessary benefit, is done with mindful presence, and is undervalued by the city. You must offer them the coins as a token of your gratitude for the meaning they bring to their craft, not as payment for a debt." Hiroto was intrigued. He took the heavy sack and returned to the clamorous, noisy market, the very place he had sought to escape. He wandered through the stalls, his new perspective guiding his eye. He no longer saw only goods and prices. He saw effort and intention. He saw a woman weaving straw mats. Her work was essential for every home, yet her stall was quiet and overlooked. Her hands moved with a rhythmic, steady grace, focused entirely on the texture of the straw, unaware of the chaos around her. Her labor was mindful, peaceful, and created immediate benefit. Right livelihood. Hiroto walked to her and poured a handful of the heavy silver coins into her open basket. "This is not for the price of the mat," he explained gently. "This is to honor the quiet attention you bring to your work. Thank you for the peace you weave into this city." The woman looked at the unexpected wealth, then at his earnest face, and tears welled up in her eyes. Next, he saw a street vendor selling clean, freshly drawn water. The vendor worked tirelessly, carrying heavy buckets up the hill, providing the most basic sustenance to the poor who could not afford the guild's price. His labor was entirely focused on relieving suffering. Right livelihood. Hiroto offered him a handful of coins. "This is a payment to honor the service you provide," Hiroto said. "Your effort is the most valuable thing in this city." He spent the entire day walking the market. His perspective transformed. He bypassed the merchant houses and the moneylenders, whose work created no product, only accumulated wealth, and sought out the humble, the potter who shaped beautiful, functional vessels from mud, the gardener who brought fresh herbs into the weighted air, and the simple storytellers who offered respite and joy. With every gift, Hiroto felt the heavy weight of the silver pouch transfer from his hand to his heart. The act of giving the coins away with conscious, respectful intention was the first time the coins had felt truly valuable to him. They had ceased to be cold symbols of control and had become channels of recognition and compassion. By dusk, the pouch was empty. Hiroto sat on a low wall near the market gate, feeling an immense, expansive lightness he had never known. He had lost his wealth, but he had found his worth. He realized that the true function of wealth was not to separate the wealthy from the world, but to serve as a tool to acknowledge the interconnectedness of human effort. He returned to the temple and found Master Senshin waiting by the lotus pond. "The pouch is empty, Master," Hiroto announced, smiling. "But my heart is full. I no longer feel the noise of the hammer. I only feel the peace of the exchange." Senshin looked at the pond. A beautiful, pure white lotus, which had been only a tightly closed bud the day before, had opened completely in the evening light. "Your work is complete, Hiroto," Senshin said. "The coin is purified not by the quality of its silver, but by the intention of its giving. You have learned that the right livelihood is not a profession, but a state of mind that you bring to the profession." He walked over to the pond and gently plucked the copper lotus petal Hiroto had hammered. He placed it carefully on the surface of the water, next to the newly bloomed white lotus. "This petal," Senshin concluded, "is your new currency. It has no price, but it holds infinite value. Go back to your forge, Hiroto. Continue to strike the coins, because the city needs your skill and the precision of your mind. But from now on, you are not merely a coinsmith, you are a weaver of intention. For every 10 coins you strike, make 1 copper petal for yourself. And for every coin you spend or use, remember the petal. Remember that the true worth of your labor lies not in the metal, but in the compassion and benefit you bring to the world with the skill of your hand." Hiroto bowed, feeling no anxiety about returning to the noisy smithy. He carried the image of the white lotus rising from the mud and the weightless feeling of the empty pouch. He had found his right livelihood, not by escaping his work, but by transforming his relationship to his hammer. He returned to the forge, and the rhythmic striking of his hammer was no longer the deafening sound of meaningless labor, but the steady, mindful pulse of a man dedicated to the balance between skill and service, metal and mindfulness. The hermitage of the silent heart. In a desolate, rocky terrain, far from any flourishing garden, lay the small hermitage of Mugo-an, the hermitage of the unmoved. The hermitage was dedicated to the practice of right thought, Samma Sankappa, focusing on purging the mind of the 3 poisons, kilesa, greed, raga, ill will, dosa, and delusion, moha. Its monks believed that the quality of one's entire life flowed directly from the intention of one's thoughts. The headmaster was an aging monk named Genshin, whose mind was a boundless space of kindness and non-harming. His challenge, however, was his long-time student, a monk named Shukai. Shukai was physically capable and disciplined, but his internal landscape was a toxic garden. He harbored resentment toward the other monks, feeling they were more respected than he was, ill will. He constantly coveted the finer meditation bowls and warmer robes belonging to others, greed. And he secretly enjoyed witnessing the minor misfortunes of anyone he perceived as a rival, harmful intention. Shukai's internal suffering became so intense that it began to manifest physically. His hands were perpetually clenched, and his stomach was often in knots. The silence of the hermitage only amplified the relentless toxic chatter of his mind. One frigid morning, Shukai sought out Master Genshin, finding him tending to a single stunted lemon tree that miraculously grew in a sheltered pocket of rock near the hermitage. The tree, though struggling, produced one perfect, fragrant lemon each year. "Master Genshin," Shukai began, his voice tense with suppressed anger, "I am failing. My mind is filled with bitterness. I see the head novice, Ryusei, meditating with effortless peace, and I feel a furious resentment, Dosa. I compare my simple bowl to his elegant ceramic one, and I feel consuming envy, Raga. I cannot stop these thoughts. How can I achieve right thought when my mind is a nest of vipers?" Genshin gently turned a dry piece of soil with his finger. "Shukai, the mind is not a nest of vipers. It is merely soil. The thoughts you describe, greed, ill will, and harm, are the seeds you have allowed to take root and flourish. The vipers you feel are merely the shadows cast by the dense foliage of your own unskillful intentions." Genshin pointed to the lemon tree. "This tree gives me one perfect lemon each year. It is a symbol of my life's efforts. Your current thoughts give you nothing but sourness. You cannot stop the seeds from blowing into your mind, but you can choose which seeds you water." Genshin gave Shukai his task. "For 1 week, you will not meditate in the hall. You will become the gardener of the 3 poisons. Your work will be to tend to this lemon tree. But every time a poisonous thought arises in your mind, you must perform a corresponding symbolic action on the tree to show the thought's true nature. This is the practice of the inverted intention." The practice of the inverted intention, Genshin explained the 3 actions. Greed, raga, covetousness. If you covet another's possession, their bowl, their robe, their quiet mind, you must symbolically steal something from this tree. Pinch 1 leaf, break 1 tiny twig. This shows the greed's true nature. It destroys the very thing you want to possess. Ill will, dosa, anger, resentment. If you feel resentment or anger towards another person, you must symbolically harm this tree. Pour a small handful of salt onto the soil, or cut one of the fragile roots. This shows the ill will's true nature. It poisons the environment and ultimately poisons the self. Harmful intention, vihimsa, wishing others misfortune. If you feel pleasure at another's misfortune or wish harm upon them, you must symbolically obscure the tree. Cover a small portion of the leaf with mud, blocking the light. This shows the harmful intention's true nature. It blocks the light of goodness in the world and replaces it with darkness. Shukai, intrigued by the physical immediacy of the practice, agreed. He took his place beside the struggling lemon tree. The first few hours were shocking. His mind, now hyper-aware of its own intentions, revealed its staggering toxicity. He saw Ryusei, the head novice, receive a compliment from an elder monk. Immediately, the hot surge of ill will, dosa, erupted in Shukai's chest. He instinctively reached for the salt bag Genshin had provided and poured a pinch onto the dry earth near the roots. He heard the faint sizzle of the salt touching the soil. The action felt strangely real, like he was poisoning his own garden. He then felt a sharp pang of greed, raga, upon seeing a beautiful new ceramic cup brought into the hermitage. He instantly pinched a small, perfect leaf from the highest branch. He watched the leaf drop to the ground. The simple, senseless act of destruction was undeniable. Greed does not gain, it only takes, he realized. Finally, a thought of harmful intention, vihimsa, arose. when he saw a rival monk slip on the mossy path. A fleeting, dark satisfaction crossed Shukai's mind. He smeared a handful of mud onto a low-hanging leaf, immediately blocking its connection to the sun. Harmful thought obscures the light. By the end of the day, the small lemon tree looked noticeably distressed. Its leaves were bent, a few were muddy, and the ground was dotted with tiny piles of salt. Shukai was horrified. He saw his internal state made visible and externalized. He wasn't harming the tree. He was physically representing the self-inflicted damage of his own thoughts. The planting of the wholesome seed. On the second day, Shukai's focus began to shift from the negative to the positive, the second half of right thought, cultivating non-greed, non-ill will, and non-harm. Genshin appeared and handed Shukai 3 small clay pots containing seedlings, a fragrant jasmine, a cooling mint, and a healing aloe plant. You have mastered the inversion of the poisons, Shukai. Now, you must learn the inversion of the actions. You will continue to monitor your mind, but every time you successfully replace a harmful intention with a skillful one, you will perform a corresponding wholesome action on these seedlings. Non-greed, renunciation, contentment. If you successfully catch a thought of covetousness and replace it with contentment or renunciation, choosing not to grasp, you must give the jasmine plant pure, cool water. Non-ill will, loving kindness, metta. If you catch a thought of resentment and replace it with loving kindness toward that person, you must gently prune a dead branch from the mint plant, helping it grow. Non-harm, compassion, karuna. If you catch a thought of harm, you must replace it with compassion for the other's suffering and gently nurture the healing aloe plant. Shukai began the practice with fervor. He found that the effort to create a wholesome thought was immediately rewarded by the positive physical action. When he saw Ryusei again, the familiar surge of resentment arose. He immediately arrested the thought, reminding himself, "May Ryusei be well. May he be happy." He then went to the mint plant, found a withered leaf, and gently snapped it off, allowing the fresh growth beneath to flourish. The act of nurturing the mint felt like an immediate balm to the bitterness in his chest. When he felt a desire for another monk's possession, he quickly focused on the simple beauty of his own rough wooden bowl, generating contentment. He then watered the jasmine plant. The reward was immediate. The beautiful, sweet scent of the jasmine filled the cold air, replacing the sour taste of envy. By the end of the week, the lemon tree, though scarred, was still alive, having been spared the worst of Shukai's negative intentions. But the 3 small pots of wholesome seedlings, jasmine, mint, and aloe, were thriving, their leaves a vibrant, healthy green. Shukai felt a profound internal lightness. His mind was no longer a battlefield. It was a flourishing, fragrant greenhouse. He knew he was ready for the final lesson. Shukai returned to Master Genshin, carrying the 3 thriving pots of fragrant seedlings. He left the scarred lemon tree where it was, a silent monument to his past internal struggle. "Master," Shukai said, presenting the vibrant jasmine, mint, and aloe plants. "The garden has taught me. I no longer feel trapped by the poisons. I feel empowered by the choice to nurture wholesome intentions. The mind is indeed soil, and its quality is determined by which seeds I water." Genshin looked at the flourishing plants, then at Shukai's hands, which were now relaxed and dusted with healthy soil, not clenched. "You have learned how to tend your own garden, Shukai. That is the necessary step. But now, you must learn that the 3 poisons are not just your personal failing. They are the universal suffering of all beings. Genshin led Shukai away from the hermitage, down the rocky path toward the nearest struggling village. Your final task, Shukai, is the practice of the universal gardener. You will spend the day observing the villagers. You must identify the actions of greed, ill will, and harm, not in judgment, but in compassion. And for every instance of a poisonous action you witness, you must perform a corresponding symbolic action on your own plants, focusing the wholesome intention on that person. Shukai walked into the village, which was loud, dusty, and full of the raw tension of daily life. He saw a merchant angrily cheating a farmer on the price of grain, raga, greed. The farmer's face crumpled in helpless frustration. Shukai immediately stopped, and focusing on the merchant, he poured cool water over the roots of his jasmine plant, visualizing contentment dissolving the merchant's craving. He saw two neighbors shout insults at each other over a property line dispute. Dosa, ill will. He focused on them, gently pruning the dead wood from his mint plant, visualizing the healing energy of loving kindness flowing into their angry hearts. He saw a group of boys intentionally throw stones at a stray dog. Vihimsa, harmful intention. A deep sorrow filled him. He knelt and gently pressed the healing aloe gel onto a scrape on his own arm, visualizing compassion replacing the cruelty in the boys' minds. As the day progressed, Shukai realized that the three poisons were everywhere. They were the universal condition of the unawakened mind. But this observation did not bring judgment or despair. It brought profound compassion. He saw that the merchant was suffering from his craving, the neighbors were suffering from their hatred, and the boys were suffering from their ignorance. Their actions were not attacks on him. They were symptoms of their own inner poisons. By focusing his wholesome intentions on them, Shukai felt a powerful, energetic connection. His plants became his channels of metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion. He was no longer trying to protect himself from the toxins. He was actively transforming the toxins of the world with the purified intention of his mind. He returned to Genshin at dusk, his mind clear, his body tired, but his heart overflowing with a quiet, universal love. Master, Shukai whispered, I understood. The vipers in my heart were not mine alone. They were the universal sorrow, and the only way to heal my own heart was to heal the sorrow in others. Right thought is not a shield against the world. It is a mirror reflecting love back into the world. Genshin smiled, satisfied. The Buddha said, the mind is everything. What you think you become. You have found that the highest practice is not just to clear the poisons, but to actively replace them with the wholesome intentions of non-greed, non-ill will, and non-harm. He took the three thriving plants and placed them on the altar in the hermitage. Go back to your practice, Shukai, but never forget the lesson of the garden. Your mind will always be subjected to the seeds of the three poisons, but your greatest skill is now that of the universal gardener. Your work is never finished. You must vigilantly water the jasmine, prune the mint, and care for the aloe, not just for yourself, but for the sake of all beings. Shukai bowed, a genuine smile radiating from his relaxed face. He had arrived at the hermitage full of bitterness and resentment. He left with a heart full of compassion and a clear sense of purpose. He no longer worried about the possessions of others or the insults they might cast. His mind was focused on the only thing that mattered, the intention of the present moment. The poison had been composted, and the garden of right thought had finally bloomed. In the vast, densely populated coastal city of Maoi, the city of illusion. Every resident relied on maps. The city was so sprawling and complex that navigating it without a detailed guide was nearly impossible. The problem was that over centuries, the official maps, used by everyone from merchants to government officials, had been repeatedly copied, edited to favor certain districts, and distorted by wishful thinking. The maps were beautiful, adorned with gilded borders and idealized symmetrical streets, but they were almost entirely inaccurate. The residents of Maui lived in perpetual frustration. Merchants were constantly late, travelers were lost, and people often blamed the city itself for their confusion, never suspecting the flaw was in the guide they held in their hands. In a quiet corner of the city, hidden from the main thoroughfares, lived Master Kenji, unrelated to the novice from the second story, the city's last remaining true cartographer. Kenji had spent his life rejecting the official, stylized maps. He insisted on charting the city only by direct observation, meticulously measuring every curve, slope, and sudden, chaotic change. His guide was the principle of samadhi, right understanding, seeing reality exactly as it is, without the bias of desire or delusion. One day, a young, ambitious scholar named Tatsuya, a devoted student of the official maps, was assigned a prestigious mission to deliver a vital royal decree across the city in the shortest possible time. Tatsuya took the official, most beautiful map, marked the route with a clean, straight line, and set out with confidence. Predictably, Tatsuya's journey was a disaster. The straight line on the map led him into a labyrinth of dead-end alleys that existed only on paper, forced him to cross impassable ravines, and eventually stranded him in a filthy, unknown district hours late. The failure was humiliating. Defeated, Tatsuya abandoned the useless map and stumbled into the quiet district of the true cartographer. He found Master Kenji sitting calmly, tracing a minute irregularity on a sheet of rough parchment. "Master Kenji," Tatsuya confessed, his voice heavy with despair. "The city defeats me. Its chaos is overwhelming. The official map, which is supposed to be the truth, lies. It showed a straight, clear path, yet it led me to ruin. How can one ever find the true path in this confusing world?" Kenji didn't look up immediately. He pointed to the gilded, discarded map Tatsuya had dropped on the floor. "The map did not lie, Tatsuya. The map simply reflects the wish of the mapmaker, the wish for a straight, easy path. When your mind replaces reality with a desirable wish, you are bound to fail. The city is not chaotic. Your understanding of the city is chaotic." Kenji looked up, his eyes sharp and focused. "You seek the true path, Tatsuya? Then you must understand the first element of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right understanding. The path is not a thing you follow. It is the way you see the world." He gave Tatsuya his challenge. "For 1 week, you will discard all maps, all previous assumptions, and all desires for a clean, straight path. Your only tool will be your eyes and this single, simple piece of charcoal. You will perform the practice of the unbiased observer." The practice of the unbiased observer. Kenji explained the task. You will spend 3 days charting a single small section of the city, a market square, and the 3 streets that lead away from it. But you will not draw what you wish to see, or what the official maps say you should see. You will draw only what your eyes confirm, without adding interpretation or opinion. When you see a bend in the street, you must draw the bend precisely, even if the map in your mind insists it should be straight. When you see a dead end, you must chart the dead end honestly, even if you wish it were a thoroughfare. When you see a steep hill, you must mark the steepness, even if it makes the route difficult. The honesty of the map must be greater than the convenience of the journey. Tatsuya set out, armed only with the charcoal and a simple piece of parchment. The first few hours were intensely frustrating. He stood in the market square, a space the official map depicted as a perfect, symmetrical circle. Tatsuya began to measure it. To his disbelief, the square was not a circle at all. It was an irregular octagon, constantly shifting its boundaries due to haphazardly placed stalls. The thought arose, this should be a circle. It would be much neater if it were a circle. He paused, remembering Kenji's instruction. Right understanding means drawing the irregular octagon, not the satisfying circle. He forced his hand to chart the unevenness. He moved to the streets. The official map showed them meeting at perfect 90-degree angles. Tatsuya measured them. The first street met the square at 87 degrees, the second at 93, and the third was not a street at all, but a disguised, crumbling set of stairs. The thought arose, this makes the map look ugly and awkward. I will round the numbers. He stopped. Right understanding means charting the 87 degrees and the crumbling stairs, regardless of aesthetics or convenience. Tatsuya spent 3 days meticulously observing and charting this small area. He found that the difficulty of the task was not in the measuring, but in overcoming the prejudice of his own mind. His mind constantly tried to impose symmetry, order, and desirable simplicity onto a complex, messy reality. He realized the core error of his life. He had been following an internal, distorted official map built on his own desires and fears. He had seen his career as a smooth, straight line to promotion, a perfect circle. When his path hit an unexpected obstacle, the irregular octagon, he hadn't blamed the map. He had blamed reality itself for not conforming to his wish. The true nature of suffering. After 3 days, Tatsuya returned to Kenji with his small, rough map. It was messy, full of unexpected jogs and odd angles, but it was true. Kenji examined the map, nodding slowly. You have begun the purification of your sight, Tatsuya. You have learned that the world does not owe you symmetry. Now, you must apply this vision to the 4 noble truths, the essential map of the Buddha. The first truth, Tatsuya, is suffering, dukkha. You have seen its cause directly in your map. What is the true source of suffering? Tatsuya pointed to the official map on the floor. The source of suffering, Master, is not the chaos of the city. It is the belief that the map in my hand is the reality. The map, my wish for a straight path, is fundamentally at odds with the true shape of the ground. Exactly, Kenji confirmed. Suffering is the friction between what is, the uneven ground, and what you insist should be, the straight line on the map. The map of the 4 noble truths is not a list of moral rules. It is simply the accurate chart of the terrain of human experience. Kenji gave Tatsuya the second half of his practice. For the next 4 days, you will walk the entire perimeter of the city, and you will not chart the geography. You will only chart the emotional terrain of the people you see. You will use the charcoal to draw symbolic representations of the 4 emotions: joy, sorrow, calm, and craving. And you must chart them not where you wish to see them, but only where your unbiased eyes confirm them. Tatsuya took the charcoal, understanding that he was now charting the internal landscape, applying the same brutal honesty he had learned on the streets. Tatsuya began his final practice, charting the emotional terrain of Mayoi. He walked the entire perimeter of the city, focusing his gaze not on the buildings, but on the faces and gestures of the people. He quickly found that the map of human emotion was even more complex and uneven than the map of the streets. He saw a child laugh with pure, unbridled joy. He immediately marked a simple circle on his parchment. He saw a merchant desperately arguing with a customer over a few coins, his face twisted in anxiety, craving. He marked a sharp, jagged spiral. He saw an elderly man sitting alone, his head bowed in quiet sorrow. He marked a heavy, downward-pointing triangle. He saw a guard standing at attention, his eyes steady and his posture relaxed, calm. He marked a simple, unwavering horizontal line. The first temptation was to judge. Why is that man so greedy? That sorrow is unnecessary. But he caught himself, remembering Kenji's lesson. The unbiased observer records only what is. He was not mapping what should be, but what is, the present reality of their emotional experience. He also found that emotions were not fixed points. He watched a young woman weep in sorrow over a broken vase, and then, a moment later, she burst into laughter at a bird stealing a piece of bread. The downward-pointing triangle of sorrow was immediately replaced by the open circle of joy. Tatsuya realized that the Four Noble Truths were not abstract philosophical concepts. They were the actual moment-to-moment emotional reality of Mayoi. Dukkha, sorrow, unsatisfactoriness. The sorrow and the anxiety he charted were real and abundant. Samudaya, the origin of suffering. The vast majority of the jagged spirals he charted were rooted in craving, the desire for things to be other than they were. Nirodha, the cessation of suffering. The brief, sudden bursts of joy and calm were always present when the person momentarily let go of their craving. Magga, the path. The path to lasting calm was simply the continuous effort to see this reality clearly. He returned to Master Kenji with a piece of parchment covered not in streets and walls, but in a chaotic, beautiful tapestry of human feeling. A mixture of circles, spirals, triangles, and lines. Kenji took the emotional map and examined it closely. This is the most accurate map of Mayoi, Tatsuya. This is right understanding in practice. It is the understanding that the terrain of the mind, like the terrain of the city, is fundamentally uneven, impermanent, and subject to change. Tell me, Tatsuya, Kenji asked, pointing to a large cluster of craving spirals. If the official map tells you the world should be perfectly straight, and your unbiased eyes tell you it is full of sharp angles, what is your next action? Tatsuya looked at the map, his mind clear. My next action is not to blame the street for being bent, nor to try to flatten it with my hands. My next action is to adjust my own step to match the reality of the ground. I walk the path as it is. And if your mind is full of the jagged spiral of craving, my action is the same. I do not blame myself for the craving, nor do I try to crush it with force. I simply recognize that craving is present, and I adjust my intention to match the reality of non-craving. I step into contentment. I walk the path as it is. Kenji smiled. This is the heart of Samadhi, right understanding. He then stood up and picked up the discarded gilded map. He took a knife and began to carve away the ornate false edges of the map, removing the useless gold leaf and the idealized borders. He cut away all the parts that reflected the mapmaker's desire for perfection. What remained was a small, plain, but functional piece of parchment, the core, accurate center of the original map, showing only the few streets that were actually real and useful. The Eightfold Path, Kenji said, handing the purified map to Tatsuya. is not a new territory to be charted. It is the purification of the map you already possess. You came here seeking the perfect path, Tatsuya. You leave knowing there is only the perfect step, and the perfect step is always taken with the clarity of right understanding, seeing the world and your own mind exactly as it is, without illusion, fear, or demand. Tatsuya took the small, purified map. He no longer needed grand plans or easy routes. He had the only tool a true traveler requires, the ability to see the truth of the terrain in the present moment. He was no longer defeated by the chaos of the world. He was empowered by the clarity of his own sight. He returned to the city, ready to navigate the complex, uneven, and beautiful reality of Mayoi. One mindful, accurate step at a time. The true cartographer had found his way home, not to a place, but to the truth of his own perception.